Hey Brainiacs, welcome back to The Broken Brain. This is Dwight here to host and play a recorded thing. This is the second half of the August 31st live stream for International Overdose Awareness Day, and it's a great half. I'd say it's one in the top two of the halves for this live program. We pick up here right after we had ended our conversation with Mike Lunsford, and Izzy and I were able to goad Robb Maynard into joining us. These are all the people from the Reels of Justice podcast, which is a great podcast about movies, but also about healthy debate and discussion between people who are having fun instead of getting mad at each other, which is awfully cool, actually. We're joined at some point by every one of the four hosts of that show. You'll hear them talking, and we have a quite in-depth and very open, raw discussion about addiction. And one of the guests on the stream shares about his own struggles with that, and everybody's able to talk about that and provide support. Lots of good topics discussed here, and I know you will enjoy it. The highlighted charity once again for September is Akasha Patra. If you go to akashapatra.org, that's AKSHAYAPATRA.org, or just look in the show notes to get that spelling, and that will hyperlink in the platforms that allow hyperlinks, but you'll see it in the show notes as well. This is a wonderful nonprofit based out of India that works to provide a hot midday meal for all kids in school, both to promote and encourage attendance and to help with nutrition, of course, and which also, of course, helps with cognitive function and focus on school, helping those kids. So go there, learn about it. Donate if you can, share it on your socials. And if you, by the way, if you become a Patreon member of The Broken Brain, 50% of your donation will always go to the highlighted charity that was highlighted in the month that you joined the Patreon, and it will go to that charity for the duration of your time. As long as you donate here, you will not only get access to bonus materials and help The Broken Brain, but you will also be helping, in this case, Akshaya Patra, to provide food for kids in school. So thank you for that, and thank you for all you donors who help us to do more and more exciting things. Enjoy the rest of the live stream replay. Did I step on your line again? Were you going to say something about...
No, but I could.
Yeah, please do.
We were on the same subject of like people and you know, the things that they do. There was an episode that I missed. I was on vacation. So for Hersing Around, it was the first episode I missed. So I was like, oh, wow, this is so weird. I think I've been doing it for 2 years, and it's the first one I wasn't on. But they covered Ozzy Osbourne and Hulk Hogan. And
finally, two people that aren't problematic.
Exactly. So, but it was
one of them is remembered a little more fondly than the other. Anyway, go.
And that's
go
the thing is it's not like Ozzy has a perfect history. In fact, he has, you know, a history filled with a lot of issues, and there's a lot of, you know, what someone could say are mistakes that were made in his life. He would have said that they were mistakes in his life, on both sides. And it's just interesting, you know, how one is loved and one, there was a lot of even more controversy of. I mean, I think there was even influencers that got put out of the limelight because they showed appreciation for Hulk Hogan. Like, there was a lot of things that went into all of it, but it was just interesting because yes, they both made mistakes, and they've both made choices in their past, but it's as they continued to age, what did they do with those choices? What did they do with their lives? Mm-hmm. What did they give back to their communities? And on one end, you had someone that was actively trying, and people saw that. And then on the other, it was just more of like, I don't think that's going to change, you know, until the very end.
Or it seemed to get publicly worse.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder if people out there listening have some idea of which one we mean about which one. Maybe people have different opinions, but
yeah, exactly. But the vagueness, people will still feel either way. You know what I mean? If you're on the opposite end,
no, exactly.
You still feel that way about it.
I'd be surprised if I have a lot of listeners that are like, no, I love everything that Hulk Hogan stood for. Politically. Anyway, but whatever, you never know. But that's a great point when you look at that. And to me, that's like, do we take, this is the difference between, I think, when you were talking about a healthy version of shame right?
Yeah.
And the versus like the more destructive type. Do we look at shame and then, I'm ashamed of something, so I double down on it, or I just pretended that it didn't happen? Or do I, try to use that and try to learn from it, and to kind of try to guide myself with it. Robb Maynard is
No.
is listening to us. Thank you, Robb, and for your wisdom here. Hulk Hogan isn't so problematic, but Terry Boyle, I don't know how to pronounce it because I'm not a big wrestling guy. Sorry.
Name. Terry is very, and that's a good point too. Hulk Hogan is a persona. He's not really a person.
That's his actual name. Okay. See, I'm glad you were here, or else I would have looked dumb. Well, I mean, I did, but now at least there's real information out there.
You didn't know the information. Yeah, and a lot of people didn't know his name was Terry.
This is actually a great point to say. What do we attribute that? Thank you, Robb. Appreciate that. So appreciate Robb from us, the Robb. Yeah, jump on, Robb. We're here. Look at the link below. Anyone who is, if you're joining us, by the way, you always can. What's that?
I said, we're waiting. Sorry.
You have to say his name 3 times in a row. Robb Maynard. Anyway, one of the great contributors actually to this live event and all the years past, as well as the others from the Reels of Justice. So thank you for that, Robb. So, and once again, anybody can join by going to dwighthurst.com/live. And we provoked an appearance.
You did. Can you hear me?
Yes, very much.
Okay.
Very much.
All right. Yes. So there's a difference, right? There's a difference between Hulk Hogan, who is a character like Superman would be, and Terry Bollea, who is an actor like Dean Cain might be. Right.
There we go.
Terry Bollea, he could buy all the rights to the Hulk Hogan name he wanted. I don't know why he was allowed to be in public just called Hulk Hogan. That's a character. Yeah. Right? It's a character.
That's when that happens, that's always crazy to me, when it's like, hey, welcome to C-SPAN. I don't know if Hulk Hogan was ever on C-SPAN or Terry, but but you see these things where it's like, we're interviewing so and so, and it's not a culture piece where it's like a piece where they're like, oh, give your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, he came out
Superman,
in political support of an individual as Hulk Hogan, right? And it's like, well, that's a character. How can you speak for it? Hey, here's Big Ben to argue too.
Ben Haslar as well.
I think especially when you have the contrast of the things that Hulk Hogan stood for, which in his song was, he was a real American. He fought for the rights of every man. To the contrast of what Terry Bollea was, where he, seemingly had a lot of, problems with race, and besides just being kind of a greedy jerk to all of his fellow wrestlers, a lot of that's going to get coded over now that he's dead. People will let a lot of that slide, but he was a problematic guy behind the scenes for a long time. So versus the character I grew up watching, who I think instilled a lot of values that I think are American in me, which is, equality and fighting for the little guy and fighting for what's right. And just that contrast, kind of the whiplash between the two.
Yeah, but a lot of people didn't know his real name, though, because he was always that person.
Terry Bollea, yes, that's right. Terry Boulder, brother.
How much of your inspiration from him came from his Saturday morning cartoon show?
Rock and wrestling, I've seen it a little in my, now that I'm older. But it's not something I watched when I was a kid. Well, maybe it was, and I have no memory of it, because that's like 88, 89. I mean, I was a baby, so.
There's a lot of that isn't real memorable, of that kind of Saturday morning experience with someone. Anyway, but yeah.
It's a pretty great show when I have watched back when they let the real wrestlers do voices, which wasn't very common, actually. They usually would have voice actors, but yeah, no.
But that's a great
flash.
It's a good point when you do mention it and say, because we can get caught up in a persona or in a point of view. I mean, it's kind of, we're talking about like extremes, right? And getting caught into that. And this is also where I always like to say with addiction, it's not, we tend to think of chemistry, right? Because we think of substances once again, but then we don't get into behaviors, attitudes, and the way that people lash outward or inward sometimes.
Yeah. And
speaking of the N-word and Hulk Hogan. Sorry. Anyway, what?
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, and horrible things he even did to his own daughter to sabotage her career and her relationship with that individual. He did plenty. But yeah,
Well,
even
Dwight said something. I wasn't sure I joined the right stream.
they pulled me in with pro wrestling. They were like, "Oh, we'll talk about pro wrestling." Rob will get nearly.
We know your
crashing
weaknesses.
down. Yeah. So when I see people who are like they love Hulk Hogan, I get that. I get that the guy that they grew up watching, who told them to say their prayers and eat their vitamins and do the right thing. I get that love for him, but but they kind of want to try to attach that to the human, and I get what human can live up to that, but I think there's failing to live up to that, and then there's doing the complete opposite.
There's failing and proud of it, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and it kind of ties in there too, right? Because it's hard for us when we find comfort in something, we can double down on it, even to a point where it might go that way. We were talking a little earlier about how so many of people who get addicted into lashing outward, becoming exclusive, pushing people out instead of being inclusive and supporting people. A lot of times that is a compulsive, even addictive impulse that we don't treat it the same because no one's getting DUIs or going to jail for it. So we can't as easily, and we can gather a community. It's harder to gather a community that's pro DUI than it is to gather one that's pro hatred. Right. And that's because I think people are addressing in the theme of today, like they are failing to engage and they are trying to be avoidant of fear or anger or that kind of impotent rage that people have. And they self-medicate with cruelty at times. There we go.
Ben, do you think people self-medicate with cruelty?
I wonder how much of it is just like people are kind of like, afraid that the other person's better than them. Like if I'm suffering and I'm afraid to reach out to help because it's
I've never had that fear.
I feel like this person like has a superiority complex over me then in some kind of way. I don't know. I'm just riffing.
Ben's familiar with people being afraid they're not as good as him. That's what I think.
Yeah, I see it from the other side of the fence. Yeah. I come down the street and everyone just like scurries away.
Yeah, but now Izzy can speak to that. When people die, people like to then kind of sugarcoat their lives and look back at only the fond things. They're like, forget the bad stuff. And it's like, well, why? That guy had his whole life to make choices, and he didn't make the greatest ones.
Yeah, we've covered plenty.
Yeah, I think of just my favorite band. Mastodon just lost Brent Hines, and I love Brent, and everyone is obviously distraught about it, but he said some very mean things in the last few months of his life about his bandmates, and he had left the band, and it's like, well, now what do you do? How do you play tributes to this guy who was saying you all suck as some of his final words?
And now we've got Ryan.
Oh man,
hello.
If there's any Reels boy here, I think we can all agree he's a piece of crap, right? If there's one missing.
Speaking of bandmates,
and not like me to say stuff like that. That's very negative.
Watch out, as you'll be talking about what you said on her podcast eventually. She's going to outlive all of us, by the way. Well, I think you're younger than. I mean, you're going to outlive me for sure. You have a lot. I'm the old guy in the room. But hi, Ryan.
Hello.
Welcome. So overall, we've been talking to catch you guys up who are just joining. We've been talking about the broad theme of today is looking at engaging with life situations, either good, bad, hobbies, interests, passions, problems, problem solving versus avoidance, self-medicating and pulling away, which oftentimes leads to different compulsions and addictions, including obviously substances, which can lead to overdose and problems and all that. So that's kind of the theme that we are talking about today, is engaging with life, avoiding with life. I've been very fascinated as I put like the balance between those two things. And I'm liking to ask everybody the same question when they come in the first time, which is, what do you guys think of the toy, the Slinky, the little metal spring toy? I'm just curious if you guys ever played with one and how bad you think it sucks.
I played with the Slinky dog from Toy Story. I never
that's
played
pretty
with
cool.
the Slinky.
Has anyone ever gotten it to go downstairs successfully?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes,
Or-
the
What?
dog
What
was
they
quite
do.
You guys
mobile.
suck.
That's what they do. I don't know
They
even
could
how
get the
you.
dog to go down the stairs, but
Maybe you have the wrong size stairs. Like, are they too long?
yeah, it does make a difference. But you got to like aim it towards the center of it, and then
Yeah,
There
you
was
gotta
an
get
Aztec temple with the stairs that were this. See, that was the problem. Yeah.
see.
I was
Yeah,
trying to
mine
think of
had a
some
skirt.
kind of historical stairs that were different. Sorry,
That's
Ryan.
a
What?
oil.
Doesn't Ace Ventura do that?
What'd you say, Ryan?
Oh, you might be right.
Oh, nothing. No, I just
Oh.
said that the dog was very mobile.
Well, that I see. I would have liked one of those, but anyway, of course, the real question is that balance, and how do we find balance of what do we do to engage? What do we do to avoid or distract in a healthy way? When does it get too far? How do you guys factor that kind of
What's
stuff?
the line like between like this is a passion that I'm doing that's really just to distract myself and something that I actually enjoy?
Exactly.
the
That's
question.
exactly it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you got it.
And everybody's is different. Everybody's line is different because everybody has a different tolerance for things.
My slinky always got coiled up.
Well, like is
Yes.
there merit in just doing it to distract yourself? Like, is that something like you see in your field that doesn't last forever, or is that like decent enough until it becomes a passion? Or
I find, I actually, I find that distraction to a healthy degree is actually a very important life skill, right?
Mhm.
And part of that, of course, is this balance, the balance you're saying. But yeah, there are times where we can also, on the other extreme, we can over engage, and to the point where anxiety will have us, jumping through lots of hoops and worrying about things that we get to real fast. We can get to a point of diminishing return, right? To where I'm worried, my worry is not going to help me if it happens at that point. And so how do I detach in a healthy way? Whoops. And keep it from flowing, too far into I just detach forever, right?
That reminds me of just being a podcaster.
Mhm.
Like, there are definitely situations where you're going to walk into where someone's going to break your heart eventually. You're gonna be all souped up and ready to go, and somebody's gonna say, "Oh, was I supposed to watch the commentary?" And you're like, "Fuck that. Yeah, of course you were.
How specific?
It's the point of the show." And then you go from there, and it's like it's not a distraction anymore; it's a burden, and it's one of those things that it's so hard to measure for me, at least.
So part of it then is like, what do we attach to it? And how much power then does it have? Because
Yeah,
that's a
and how
real
much blame do I
yeah.
associate with myself? Like, how much do I think I'm the cause of the situation that I'm in?
great.
I mean,
That's
I
just a
can't
great
go and
point.
Tell someone to watch commentary. I guess they would. Right?
You'd think they would, right? No, I think that's.
I mean,
really,
there's nothing
'cause-
more you could do but that. If you've done that, you can't blame yourself at all.
Well, and I would even go as far as to say that going through that process of self-questioning, even if it's uncomfortable, right? What we're finding then is that is a form of engagement, because engagement, as I keep hammering, is engagement doesn't equal success. Engagement means I'm dealing with what is, right? It's like I'm looking at that. So that's very interesting what you're saying. Like, so you lay that out, and for anyone who doesn't know, Ryan's I'm joined here by lots of great podcasters, everybody on the line. Ryan, your show, One Track Mind, is, I think it's the only show I know of where you review the DVD, like director and producer and cast commentaries that you can watch along with the movie, right?
As far as I know, it's the only one.
It's the
But I
only one that
didn't look
matters.
that hard. So maybe there's 80 out there. I have no idea. I have no
If
Definitely.
anyone is out there, join our live stream at dwighthurst.com/live to tell us about all the others that are out there. No, I don't know of any, but anyway, but yeah, I love this thought process. So I'm using it metaphorically, but literally we're nailing down this idea of, okay, I told somebody, hey, come on my podcast. By the way, I'm going to tell you what it is. And here's how you prep. I've been on your show. I know that you actually do send out some instructions about how to prepare for it. That's me now. And so then it's like, and then they pop up and are like, huh?
Yeah.
That was my impression of whoever that was.
It's going to be you again, Dwight, because you're coming on in December. So
Oh, nice.
you're going to be joining the Three
Yes, we
Timers
just-
Club, which is always an honor for people who are not me.
You blew past the Three Timers Club after approximately 3 episodes, being the host.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
not
There we
well,
go.
I mean, I don't count.
Right.
I
Well,
never
you're a
get into
one-timer.
the club.
You're
You
one
can't.
time.
I never get
you were
the
a guest
set of
when I
steak
hosted
knives.
it.
I never get the toaster. I never get anything important. I don't get
I get a
any
toaster?
consolation prize. We have to buy it
Nice.
yourself, but I'll give you like I'll give you a big bear hug and say, "Good job, you. Oh, you big man."
You can at least recommend what kind of toaster that I should get, maybe, you know.
Toast
We
Pro.
just got a new one at home, and it is the worst fucking thing I've ever seen in my entire life. So I can't recommend any toasters at the moment.
Does it constantly ask you the things that it can toast?
Oh,
I would love a talking
Red Dwarf
toaster,
reference.
babe.
Thank you.
How am I not surprised that my girl is making a Red Dwarf reference in this
I still need to see that
this
show.
live cast?
It's
You know what?
silly.
Maybe we should end here and go watch it. Anyway, we'll do that. Speaking
Just
of
go ahead and
engaging,
start live streaming it, and we all
engage-
watch it together.
engage with Red Dwarf.
Personally, I
Engage
love
with Zorp.
season
Yeah.
3.
So, is that where Crichton joined? Anyway, so
Yes, it is.
this is what I'm thinking about for the rest of the day now. So when you engage with that, though, it's like looking and saying, well, that didn't go well. What do I do? What did I do? I feel like some of those are healthy questions, but then do I self-medicate with over guilt, over shame too? Right. There we
Or
go.
substances,
Or substances. Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
both.
which has been my problem for most of my adult life.
Mhm. What do you feel about that line then, having experienced and, have you there been times where you found that balance? Are there things that help or don't help?
No, for me, I think that being an addict is one of those situations where you're never really a recovered addict. You're always still in the process of being, even if you're clean, you're still in the process of dealing with those overbearing emotions that come with the substances that you're addicted to. Like currently, I am, to bring the room down completely, I'm an alcoholic. I'm a little drunk right now, actually, to be honest, because I had to dull my nerves to get on this live stream. But I don't think that even if I stop drinking altogether, I don't feel like I'm gonna change as a person. If that makes sense. I think I'll be a little wiser, but it doesn't prevent me from making the same bad decision 3 years from now, 4 years from now, if that makes any sense.
But you
Oh,
might
it
not
does.
have
That's
a
me.
tummy ache while you do it.
Say that again, Rob. I talked over you. Sorry.
I said, but you might not have a tummy ache while you do it. You might be, making a lot of the same life choices, but I think physically you might feel better, and I think that's kind of the little wins sometimes you have to take.
Mm-hmm. Do you mind if I ask? And Ryan, I appreciate you sharing it too, because I think that's why we're talking about it. And you know me, everybody who's familiar, if you know me or listen to the show, I'm very much in that range of letting people set their own goals. It's what they call harm reduction, right? Trying to look and say, what's the healthy balance? How do I find my goals? But the only way to start is by self-defining what is problematic for me, whether it's about drinking or anything else, right? What is my level of problematic? Is it if I do it at all, right? Or is it if I do it this much or that much or whatever? And then just trying to determine that. What's that?
Golf. It's a game of inches. It's like golf.
Mm-hmm. I don't know golf very well, but that makes sense to me. Yeah.
It's all about the little victories. It's stuff that doesn't cure you, but at least it gives you peace of mind that it's not as bad as it could have been.
Yeah.
And that's been my mentality throughout I've been an addict since I was 18 years old. And I have to find the little victories where I can. And right now, to be completely honest, I don't have any victories. I have what feels like I'm swimming in quicksand and I'm slowly drowning. But I think I'm overdoing it a little bit, so I'll let other people.
I think that's your perspective. I think other people's perspective, they see you do have victories. And this is seltzer water, by the way. So
And I agree. I think you do have a lot of victories, and I think sometimes you just are a little too hard on yourself because you're so focused in. And of course, I think we all have those days where it doesn't matter how much anyone else hypes us up in our head, it doesn't matter. But in the long run of things, what they're saying is true, and it's not always as bad as we think it is. But by kind of letting that rule you, you miss on those opportunities to see those little wins.
Yeah,
And
you
I
can't
think
see
there's
yourself on the outside. All I know is like Ryan. Everybody I talk to, everything's you're the best, most insightful person when it comes to movies, and everyone just raves about your show.
The only person who doesn't believe it is Ryan.
It's true.
Who's the one who's got to accept it?
Because we love you.
Now, speaking as a distraction, though, I've heard many people talk about like seltzers as like a replacement for drinking.
Mm-hmm.
I know many people who do it as like I guess I kind of replace. I used to drink a lot more, and I don't know. There's something about like the bubble burn that you get. It kind of replaces that. So sometimes
Yeah,
a
the
distraction
pussy.
or a replacement, can help.
A lot of people use it for dilution as well, because if I can kind of feel like I'm mixing a cocktail, I can trick myself into ingesting 50% less or less alcohol, right? So that's another management technique, which management, of course, is, well, like I say, I think if we are looking at plugging into what is and dealing with what is, it's both saying to ourselves like, oh, do I see those, or can I reframe and find these little victories, or saying to myself, I don't see none. That's still engaging. You're still engaging with how you feel when you're saying that to yourself, even if it's a bad feeling that you're having. Does that make sense? Once again, it's not, you don't have to, it doesn't have to always be a healthy process, even if everybody else, I think it's good to hear that from people. At least I find it's good, even if it doesn't change my feelings when other people give me that feedback. I don't know if you find that, Ryan, but I do. Depends.
I have such imposter syndrome that I refuse to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime I hear praise or like get a pat on the back, I go like, I didn't deserve that. I didn't earn that.
But do you
And
like
I
it,
do that too to some extent.
or do you resent it?
I don't resent it so much as I just don't believe it. I think it's somebody trying to be nice to me instead
But
of
if
somebody who's being honest with me. And that's not a comment on them. That's a comment on my insecurity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're looking at it, you're
Yeah.
aware of it. What's that, Rob?
Do you think you would feel worse if it stopped coming? Those kind of encouragements.
Probably. That's the paradox for me. Is that I need that validation.
Well, but it is
at the
doing
same
some
time,
good.
if you say it, I don't believe you when you say it. It's a completely strange pathology that I cannot define, but that's just how I'm wired, I guess.
More like you believe that they believe it, maybe, but sometimes you believe that they're just saying it.
Precisely, yes.
Yeah.
I'm the same way when people say bad things about me. I'm like, I don't believe it. I don't believe you.
I don't know. I guess I was like that with the writing. I mean, I don't consider myself a writer. I don't think I'm the worst writer on the world or anything, but I don't consider myself a writer. But you, Dwight, were just like, wow, I love your little intros and stuff. So,
Babe,
this is, I'm interested in the guy's thoughts about this is, do you, as he said, she didn't regard herself as a writer. And I'm like, I've heard your intros. So I don't agree with that myself. I see you as a writer, but of course, how we envision ourselves is important as well, not just what other people think, right?
You are indeed a writer, babe. You, whether you see it or not, coming from the man who does not trust anybody, let me tell you, your intros to your podcast are the best part of the podcast. Before the guest even comes on.
Hey.
Everyone else there,
especially the following episode. No, especially the following guests. No, but I admire even writing an intro, because man, I've tried to get myself to be that, even just the discipline to do it. No, let alone that they're pretty awesome. Yeah, so that's an interesting thing.
I think some of that is like the push for people to not think they're a role unless it's earning them money. Like if they don't have a job writing, they don't consider themselves a writer. It's not enough to just do it as a hobby or for the love of it. They see themselves as not a success if they can't make a living off of it. And I think that's just sort of a modern kind of problem where you're supposed to exploit all of your interests and hobbies to constantly grind and make money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
sometimes
I
they
do
stop being fun once you do that.
Exactly. And a lot of people are like, oh, but you're so good at planning parties and you do all these fun themes. And it's like, yeah, I don't want to be a party planner. I don't want to do this for other people because then it's not fun anymore. It's their parties. It's not my parties. Yeah.
So you're saying that I'll enjoy podcasting forever then?
Yeah.
as long as I don't make any money on it.
As long as human society
This is
keeps
why.
going, podcasts will as well.
Exactly.
No, it's just like once someone starts paying you and says you have to do it this way, then it will stop being fun.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like with art too. Like I enjoy just doing that for myself, but people were like, "You could sell your art." That little skull piece. My family was like, "You could totally sell that." I'm like, I don't want to sell that. I like that skull painting. Like it's I worked 2 weeks on it and I crafted it with my own hands. And sometimes I talk to it because it's very lifelike to me.
If I use that as an
Funny.
example too, yeah, when we're doing something that we're good at that we do love, and I've had a little bit of the experience. I'll say, thank goodness I never made anything off of my podcast, but which makes it more enjoyable in some ways because I have produced for pay for a couple of podcasts out there, and I will say this, especially if any of you are listening, my former clients. I know I did enjoy it, and there were really fun things about it, but it felt like an enjoyable job rather than it was like, oh, it was a good day at work kind of thing. And it wasn't like, oh, I got to edit that thing that I did that was real exciting to me for my reasons and my dream goals or whatever. It's like, oh, I'm doing this, and it's nice that it's a good thing that I can do, that I do like the act of doing it, if that makes any sense. So yeah, totally true. Why we do things, so why we do them is, I think, one of the biggest parts of this balance of, is this healthy or not healthy? Like what is the purpose for why I'm doing something? So am I doing it because I have to? Am I doing it because I want to? Whether it's an addiction type of a behavior, or whether it's just something that is more in that middle ground. Am I doing something like, oh, this is enjoyable, I'll do it so that I don't have to open one of those envelopes that's stacking up over on the table that I've gotten 3 or 4 from the same company, and they must just be planning on going away sometime, so I just won't open them. Or am I doing it because I opened
car's limited warranty?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's what they all are. They're all.
I don't know if the IRS is going to go away, Dwight. Although honestly, that's who knows.
I'm waiting.
Yeah.
I got my fingers crossed here below. There is below the camera, so you couldn't see, but they've been crossed the whole time. Yeah, exactly. Or am I doing it because I already did open the envelopes, and now I kind of want to release some of the pressure, focus, anxiety a little. Anyway,
for context, like when I go to the movies, there's a bar in the movie theater, and I always tell myself, if I get one drink and that's it, then that's a victory. Because there was a point where I'd go see a triple feature, and before every single movie I'd get a drink. And now it's limited to once, and then I feel like I've actually culled something deep inside of me that by preventing it, I'm helping myself. But at the same time, I really want that second drink. But I think that I recognize the power of being able to say no, one is enough, if that makes sense.
That's a good power, I think, just being able to limit yourself and not let it control you alone. Because what I know about my drinking in the past, being a movie, like, okay, even that you're holding yourself back pretty much, like it's as soon as the glass is empty, you've got the next one. Like I've been there too and seen people in there. So there's levels of restraint being shown, and obviously you're showing a much higher level of restraint than you did, but even then you showed a level of restraint that others couldn't demonstrate.
That's a great point. I think that the reason we define something as a win or don't oftentimes is because we're told what we're supposed to count as a win, right? This is coming from a harm reduction therapist, by the way. Increasing health, and even just the math of the situation. If you're like, I want to do less, I did less. Of course, that's a win, right? That's defined. Now, this is where I think there are pros and cons of a lot of organized support organizations out there that you have to be very careful of, is because there's a culture that goes along with it that says, like, well, unless you do X, you haven't succeeded, right? And I'm not going to say that everybody who is a member of any of those groups is doing that. I think there's healthy versions, I guess, but I mean, trying to say like, that's healthier than I was being. Awesome. That's a good thing. Right. And if I am able to believe that and tell myself that that's a win, then it is a win logically, but it's also a win subjectively to myself. If I can believe it, and then I'm more likely to do something healthy and keep doing it, or do more, whatever, better, if I believe that I'm able to do that. Right.
That's the biggest problem for me, is that I don't believe in myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's the one thing that has been consistent over the entire course of my life before I even became an addict, was that I don't believe that I'm capable of achieving anything. And it doesn't matter. Like I used to be a great writer in high school, and I would constantly get teachers telling me, well, why don't you read this in front of the class? This is actually a really good essay. And I'd be like, no, I don't think I deserve that. I don't think I earned that. And I would make them read it if they liked it so damn much. But it's one of those things where it's just like, I never look at a win as a win. I look at it as kind of like a crooked L, if you will.
That's a Z.
Do you think,
or at
there'll
least
ever be a
2/3
way
of a
to
Z.
give yourself a win?
Is
Is there ever going to be a way to give yourself a win?
Well, I mean, our relationship is helping. I gotta say, you're the greatest thing that has happened to me in decades. And the last thing I want to do is disappoint you.
Sappy. I love it.
What helps me is like retrospective, like just like looking back. Sometimes I think I'm not making any progress at anything, any skill growing or anything, until you just take that moment and like you have an anniversary, like 6 months, whatever, and like, oh, actually, I kind of did come up further than I realized. I wasn't measuring it in my brain as I was doing it. When you're doing that, you kind of do set yourself up for failure, or at least I do as I go. And it's like looking back, that's like, oh, that's encouraging. I know more than I did 6 months ago trying to do this new thing.
So kind of trying to track it and watch it for you is helpful.
But backwards, retrospectively, yeah.
Right, yeah. What about when you...
I
Go ahead,
I
Rob.
also think that there are more goals I'd want to achieve than I am, but then I stop and think of like, well, we put out a new episode of the podcast every single week for 6 years with a different guest.
Yeah.
Like, who else is doing that? I mean, there are others, but it's a high level of output that we have, and we just take it for granted. Is like what I'm saying. It's like we're just like, oh yeah, it is what it is. Of course, I put out a new podcast episode every single week.
I don't take those for granted.
Well,
and you guys have
I don't
you
take
guys
those for granted. Every Thursday morning.
From the baseline.
Yeah, of course.
It becomes normal, and we evaluate it that way. And you guys have to coordinate the schedules of 4 different people, minimum, right? If you have 2
Plus
guests.
Well, we already assume that Tuesdays are our day.
That does help.
And then it's the guest that basically throws a monkey wrench into the situation. I'm speaking about you, Dwight.
No, I was going to say I'm feeling seen and attacked at the same time. Throwing it all. There was a concept that, let's see, Rob, I think you brought it up when you were talking about the idea of resilience and holding something back, or restraint. That was the word we're talking about. It's like, it's not a new thing that you can't do, which is what we usually believe when we're caught up in addiction, right? Addictive cycles. I got to learn how to do something I've never done, or I can't do, which is to have restraint and health. But you're saying, I think, is a good point, which is, well, actually, if you really look at how you've managed things over time, there is restraint. You do have the skill. It's just trying to, and I'm saying you, obviously you, Ryan, but I think all of us, right? We have the skills that we would like to have. We just don't have them to the degree that we'd like to have, maybe. And I think that's a different, healthier way of looking at things than if we just say, I got to learn to do something that I can't do. Right.
Yeah. It's a game of inches. It's like the difference between, finishing a marathon first and finishing a marathon.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you finished it last. Like, if you finished the marathon, you did a lot more than anyone else did.
Mm-hmm. I'll say this too. I'll leap off of that to say, Also, because this is a common occurrence I hear from people, it's like, okay, what if I trained for the marathon and then I was developing whatever little mini fractures or pulled a muscle or something, and my doctor says you got to stop training for X number of however long, and I do, right? That's also a win, because I'm actually listening to my body and I'm actually not injuring myself more. And then what do I do, and how do I treat myself about that thing that happened? That's still because I'm engaging, right? I'm engaging in reality there, and I can still say, well, that's when I still was doing what I did, and I made a decision with my medical reality, right? So there you go.
It can be a difficult reality to accept. I think, I think a doctor saying, "Hey, you've got to take some time off to heal," is a lot different than a doctor going, "Yeah, no more marathons for you, bud," like at all. And if it had been your goal to do a marathon, and now you're like, no, now never. Now you've got to shift, and you've got to be able to shift and turn off that goal and find a whole new one.
Now you're the guy who writes memoirs about doing marathons.
Or what if you never got to do one at all before you can't do one or something like that, right? Yeah, but exactly, trying to pivot and be purposeful about it. I need to get Rob to give me the name of that doctor who will tell me never to go on a marathon so I can stop so quick. And that'll be Dr. Scholl's. What's the old Mitch Hedberg joke about Dr. Scholl's? He went to too much school.
It's Dr. Acula.
Yeah,
I went to my
Acula.
dentist and I got a pain in my neck. Don't ever go see Dr. Acula.
There you go.
He might have a Scholl's joke too. That's probably.
I think he does, because he said a cushion inside my shoe. I would have bought that shit from a Mr. Scholl's, I think was the joke. He didn't have to go to medical school, but. That reminds me of a question I was going to ask you, Ben. You mentioned that you like to look backwards in order to measure the success, right? And say, hey, I'm better, I'm maybe better than I was, or I'm a little further than I was, whatever. What about when you're not? What about when you look backwards and you're not? How do you deal?
It's hard to say because I'm so awesome at everything that I try.
Yeah, once again, he's like, that's never. What do you mean? What do you mean? I don't understand the concept.
Well, I don't know. I think I myself am a realist. If it's something that I don't feel like I can ever do, maybe my attentions are better shifted elsewhere. Maybe that's just something I won't do, but that doesn't mean I can't do something else that's just equally as interesting to me. Like, we should all be Renaissance people, just interested in lots of different things, and we just need the time to explore it. I think a lot of the reasons people don't explore is they don't have the time. Their job takes a lot out of them. Their family takes a lot out of them. It's a lot easier just to sit and have a beer or whatever than it is to, okay, now I'm going to try and learn something new on top of all this other stuff that I'm doing throughout the day.
It's easier to sit down and have that beer and watch Renaissance Man with Danny DeVito than it is to develop myself into one. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Not that easy to watch. But I think you're totally right.
That's me. I like Danny DeVito.
I do too, at least when he's a penguin. Now you've made me lose my train of thought there, Ben. But
blame Ben.
Oh, there we go. So we were at the, sitting down, watching, being Ben was talking about being
I think that's where substance abuse comes so much, is it gives you a false feeling of accomplishment that doesn't take any effort. Right? Like it would take you days and days years and years to master something, drawing, painting, guitar, anything, or you can, get high or get drunk and feel real quick satisfaction. And with the hustle and bustle, you got work tomorrow, you go for the quick satisfaction, the easy satisfaction. And then you look back on it in Ben's retrospect and be like, oh no, I might have been feeling good at the time, but I've been sitting on a couch for 4 years. So I would have felt a lot better about myself if I'd put some effort into one of those things and gotten a skill now.
I don't even remember all those Simpsons episodes I watched. Dang it.
Hey, now that's a skill. To remember them, that is the quotes.
Yeah, you have to remember them, but if you're intoxicated, you probably won't.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's lost. That's when we get into that's a level of engagement then too that I think is very important. And here, obviously, a bunch of creative, artistic, passionate people. I want to take advantage of that. Say, behind you, I just saw them. They just turned the corner. So go get them and bring them on the show. No, but what kinds of things when you are looking at that, and also this dovetails into what you're saying, Ben, of being a Renaissance person, which is the feeling, and I think a lot of us have this, of wanting to do a bunch. There's a lot of things that we'd like to do and create and have happen. How do you pick? How do you select things? What comes into your worldview, and you decide that I want to make this a part of me, to study this, learn this, make this, create this, write this, whatever this.
For me, it's the opportunity, like if other people are involved, like a class to learn the photography, a group of people that are saying, let's make the podcast, that kind of sets the schedule. That kind of, then you have other people that are kind of not dragging you along, but as a team effort, like facilitating the learning, making happening. That's good English right there. I don't know. It's harder by yourself. Go ahead, Rob. Sorry.
No, I agree. Looking for other people for accountability is a lot more helpful. Like I could let myself down, and it kind of wouldn't matter to me. But when I let other people down, that bugs me.
Yeah,
So I can set myself up in a position to not let them down, like, put myself on the hook intentionally. That helps me. That gives me the bumper or the framework that I need, because, if Thanos snapped everybody away and it's just me, I'm probably not going to be doing very much. I'm probably going to be accomplishing very little, because who's there to disappoint?
Exactly.
I only have enough time to read my books.
No, nobody ever mentions that. But then you're going to step on your glasses like that guy on the Twilight Zone.
Find other glasses. I mean, come on. There's got to be hundreds of
Nope,
glasses
not that guy.
around.
Nope, not that. He didn't have all the glasses disappeared with all the people. This is a Twilight Zone deep cut for everyone out there. Yeah. Well, and I'm curious that, let me say this too. Just a second ago, Ryan, you were talking about this, and Izzy, you had mentioned earlier this sense of community, and Ryan, you had just said that, that's something that's meaningful to you is your and Izzy's relationship. Getting people involved in, how do we, let's talk about doing that in a healthy way. How do we create or find a community that is healthy to find? Because I think that's something that, frankly, we're all here together. So we've found some pretty cool people, I think. So we're all, qualified to say this. No, how do we make sure that's a healthy? Because many times with addiction, I'm vamping so everybody can think about this, by the way, so make sure you are. So many times with addiction, we have the problem of not great community influence sometimes because of people that might be in our lives, even people we love, by the way, who they might not be ready to be healthy or whatever. So what do we do? How do we find these people?
Engage.
Interwebs.
Engage. There we go.
I mean, but
Izzy, bringing it into the theme.
I mean, you can be on the interweb, but if you're not engaging, it doesn't matter. Like, I mean, I was afraid of engaging, even with you guys. I mean, and now I'm just like, calling you guys poopy head during trials and stuff. So, but I was afraid to do that engagement, and if I hadn't, I would have never gotten to this point. And I love doing this, and I've loved all the people that I've met, but I wouldn't have done that if I didn't put myself out there, if I didn't say hello or crack a joke or two every once in a while. But also, because I'm now part of all of these different networks, I do have to disengage sometimes, because it gets overwhelming to constantly be in all of these different groups. And I do love all of them, but at the same time, and they also understand, you can't be here all the time because we have lives and we have families and everything, but that's still also helpful. But I wouldn't have gotten here if I didn't engage with other people and be vulnerable and say how I felt and thought about things, even if they were a little kooky. Still,
you wouldn't have found that they have that empathy if you wouldn't have engaged. That's
exactly.
So there's some of them, but then
it's a risk and it's scary, but sometimes it's obviously worth it.
Well, I think there's that twofold question. I mean, first we asked, how do you find the community, which is enough of a challenge. But then Dwight introduced, how do you find a healthy community? And it's like, well, you don't know until you're with the community, then you find out what they're about.
Yeah, you're a lurker for like 2 years, and then you're like, maybe I can start engaging in this group, because over the 2 years that I've been outside and in groups, people seem okay. Like, I don't know. I guess especially with the fandoms, the perfect thing is like MST3K. has been my favorite fandom to be a part of, because the people are really great people. I mean, obviously we always have, every group has their kooky ones or just weird ones. So it's like, how did you even get here? You know, thinking like that. But that's with every group. But for the most part, this has been the most accepting. And I mean, I've been part of the Star Wars fandom, and you can only imagine the dumbasses I've run into.
Speaking of healthy communities.
But that's my thing.
Can I stand up for the Star Wars community? Because I'm part of the
I'm
Star
part
Wars
of it,
community,
and I'm part of it, but I'm not going to envelop myself in just that fandom, because I've met people and have engaged with people who are really kind of shitty, unfortunately.
Well, and I take shots, but I am as well a big Star Wars fan, and so I just think that the toxic flavor of all fandoms is pretty toxic. But go ahead, Rob. Sure.
Yeah, but I'm saying, there's good ones and there's bad ones. I hang out almost weekly with a huge group of Star Wars fans because we get together to play a Star Wars game. So we are all Star Wars fans. And it's a pretty welcoming group. It's diverse. There's definitely different, political ideologies and age brackets and everything across the whole spectrum. But they at least all love Star Wars. So
do they love all of Star Wars?
I don't know if there's anyone.
Nobody loves all of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Well, especially there's so much now, right? Yeah.
Right. There's so much in there, but I think they find something they like about it most of the time. Like, for example, in this game, I love to play Rose Tico, just to get under people's skin. It's a very unpopular character because of her in the movie, but I'm always pushing and playing her. And
big dummy.
Yeah, just kind of fighting back against it. We're going to win by saving what we love. It's what I say every week. That's how we're going to win.
I love that, though.
And when I win, I go, you didn't save what you loved, and that's why you lost.
Yeah, and I mean, I just use them as an excuse because that was one that I was very much in until like a very public like Facebook group, until people started getting weird, and I'm like, I'm going to step away from this. And then it was also like, Doctor Who. And that got kind of weird, but then I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm a woman. I don't know, guys. Don't try it anytime. I don't recommend it.
Well, this is where, so this is where there's this concept of how much do we create a community? Do we find a community? Either one of those, though, do we cultivate, right, that community, and how much do we do so? I've had Maurice Martin is a big, he's an author and a counselor over drug and alcohol addiction, and he's been on my podcast. But one of the things that he talked about was that when he got out of his unhealthy patterns of addiction for the biggest change that he went through, one of the things was he had to actually create a community. He knew a couple people, and he had to go to people and say, who do you know? And for him, it was friendships and associations with other healthy men. That was really what he was missing in his life, was that there was a lot of toxicity in some of the male examples, masculine examples of his life. And so he just started asking people that he knew and respected, do you know anyone who, and kind of getting this little group together. And it was a group that he'd maintained so in that case, he was creating the community, right, around a topic and a thing. And by the way, if you go out there and say, let me create a men's community, that is not always an easy way to create and cultivate a healthy community. And Dylan, who's not here, by the way, that Rob wanted to talk shit on, or suggested we should.
Man community? Is that what he was doing?
He has an online community for men to support each other with their mental health and with things that is a very healthy community. And
I assume he at least participates in it. I'm not sure.
I hope so.
He's in there. Yeah, I think he. Yeah. Actually, I'm not sure. I think he had a hand in setting it up. But either way, he had shown it to me, and it was one of those where, speaking as someone who runs a psychology podcast and has reached out and investigated many people who say that they work with men's issues in a healthy way, I'll just say this: with that experience, I think I'm qualified to say it's not easy to find healthy groups for men to be healthy together that doesn't have something, some little landmine in there somewhere that you trip over.
Are you saying that the Proud Boys is not an upstanding organization? Because I will not take that, sir.
That's why I never published their interview. I really fell for that one. No, just kidding. But yeah, no, exactly. But yeah, people that would post and I'd reach out and say, hey, would you like to be? I've learned that there are certain topics in related to my theme of my podcast that I have to have a longer conversation with someone before I actually schedule the interview. Let's just say that's one of them. So
right. Yeah. And but still those communities grow because there are people still desperate to look for them and
that need a community. And
right, and while those communities are toxic, on the other hand, they go out of their way to be very welcoming to certain types. And it's like, if that's the only acceptance you've gotten, you're going to buy in, completely.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you look at people who have been, and I've known people who have been in those communities or had loved ones that for them, that was like, oh, I get it. When I realized that my loved one, or in that case, if it was themselves, that's where they finally felt empowered and safe. Right. It was like, oh, I have a group and everybody's afraid of us and this and that. And, it's the same thing with a white.
Do so well.
But yeah, get gangs, cults, white supremacist groups. I've met people that have gotten out of those.
They'll accept anyone as long as you buy into their indoctrination.
Right.
So as long as you're willing to swallow what they're selling, the door's open.
I'm sure
the white supremacist group have one other qualifier, by the way. No, just anyone who believes and is white. No, but the other groups, yeah.
They have a lot of non-white.
Just being stupid, too. But that's true. Yeah, we'll get into voting blocks and anyway. But when we do find, though, that's a good thing to bring up. What about it? It's easier to say, okay, this group, obviously, if we see a group that is obviously advertising something unhealthy, but let's just say in a social group or something, we get together, we make friends, we are invited to something, and it takes a turn, right? And it starts to be things that are like, whether they're objectively unhealthy or just maybe not good for me. Right. It's difficult to like disengage or rearrange or communicate, or I don't know. There's been experiences with that where you get into either relationships or communities that are like supposed to be, oh, this is part of my healthy enjoyment of my life, my healthy engagement with my life. And then it starts to turn a little bit like it's not working for me. Yeah. Any thoughts about that? Any experiences like that, or thoughts?
I've experienced it. Like, go to board game groups, and like you'll just have someone. They're like, "Oh, they're cool. We're all nerds here." And then someone will say something. You'll be like, "Is that? It's racist, but is that a joke? Do they believe the thing that they're saying? I don't know." And either way, I don't know the whole.
And how does the group handle it? Right? Yeah.
Like I said, it's a risk. I go to a monthly D&D night, and a part of me is always like, "Man, I really hope I don't have to run into someone that's weird." It hasn't, but I do worry, and just in general going out, I worry about any kind of conflict, because I guess that's anxiety. I don't know. I call it being prepared, whatever. But
it can be both.
It's all about degrees.
Yeah.
What'd you say,
worry
Ryan?
about if there's going to be some kind of conflict, then I don't want to deal with that. And then you kind of want to talk yourself out of it. But that is one thing I like doing, that I've grown very fond of doing. But I always do have that moment like, man, I hope no one winds up saying something that you have to just look at them sideways. Like, am I going to have to stop coming here?
Yeah,
well, there's still other groups out there. I mean,
yeah.
Like, there's all kinds of people that are interested in that thing that you found. That's not going to be the only group that does it.
It's just exhausting to have to go and find.
It is. It really is.
It gets exhausting sometimes, but thankfully have been
toxic elements in almost any group, like we said.
Oh,
just
for
how
sure.
prevalent are they in like the leadership?
Yeah.
And what's the response? Is the response tolerance of intolerance, or is the response we turn a blind eye to something that's unhealthy, or is it more like, hey, is the group's norm and leadership like, let's be healthy, right?
Well, if you're afraid to speak up, who knows how many? Yeah, if you're afraid to speak up, who knows how many other people in the group are afraid to speak up, even though they think like you. There could be the one loudest guy who's saying the toxic thing, and if nobody's going to stand up to him, then it's going to seem like that's the group think.
Yeah.
And it may slowly become it too, which is more dangerous too. People start buying into it.
Do you know they've done this is something they found in group therapy and research, and a group think research in organizations. If an idea is mentioned within a group 3 times or more, statistically speaking, most people are likely to think that everybody thought that.
Don't tell me that. I will start.
Everybody should.
I'm going to say it 2 more times.
Everybody should put their money into my debit account.
Yeah. And it doesn't seem to matter if it's the same person who said it. Also,
What? That everyone should put their money in my debit account?
It would help, I bet, if it was different people saying.
Wait,
it.
what
I feel
was that, Ben?
inclined to put something into his
Number
bank
3, here it
account.
comes. No.
No, that was the third time.
Oh, that
It's like
was
the
the third time? Okay.
Like the
Sure,
Beatles
Ben, you
used
just
to
give me your routing number and
What's
your
your Venmo?
PIN code
Yeah.
and your password, and I'll make sure all sorts of stuff gets to your debit
And
account.
your social security
You got
number
my
for some
PayPal.
reason?
You got my PayPal. PayPal will work.
No, this is something I'd heard about communication, and I could just use the word engagement because of my theme I picked. But the answer to communication problems or engagement problems, the real healthier answer is usually more communication, not less. Like we pull back when we feel hurt, but this is kind of to that point. If I'm in the group and someone's saying a thing and it's like, I could just bail because this group sucks. Or if it's really just that one, I could go, hey, I don't appreciate that. Is everybody else cool with this? And that more communication, and I'm not going to say in specifics when that's good or not good. Obviously, you want to be safe, and how much you're invested in the group and actually care is important too. But let's just say in that situation, I'm adding communication, not pulling away from it. And oftentimes, adding more communication is actually a better fix than having less communication and disengaging from something, right? There's an analogy I have for that I also read in an article, but I wanted to save the analogy because I worry we might go off on it too much. But the analogy is about Star Wars. I read a review of Rogue One where the reviewer, which is one of my favorite Star Wars movies personally, hold on to that thought. So anyway, the reviewer, he said that when he saw that, and he said it was funny to him because there's this famous plot hole that people make fun of or whatever. It's actually literally a hole with which you can shoot down a torpedo and blow up the Death Star. So people have said for years and years, have joked around about like, well, why would they leave that there? That's stupid. That was in the plans, obviously, that nobody should, blah, 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 blah. Well, in Rogue One, spoiler alert, it turns out the main engineer of the Death Star was forced into it. And so he purposely left. Yeah. He purposely left this weakness there so that someone might be able to destroy it someday. And so this article, basically one of the points he made was, he said it was interesting that the fix for this problem with Star Wars was more Star Wars. So this is where there might be a hot take, but it's like, so somebody thought of that. They took that whatever little joke or plot hole or whatever you want to call it, and they said, hey, I could use this in my story. I could use this to broaden the storytelling and deepen the universe. And so the answer is more. So just make more Star Wars
with the parsecs too.
I don't know if that's age. Yeah, exactly. There you go with Han Solo. By the way, whether or not people like Solo, I thought that was a hilarious little throwaway gag that he was lying about the thing that made him famous in the first movie. Anyway, whatever. I thought because that seemed to match his personality. So, all right. So go off on Star Wars. Ready to go.
Guys, I hate to disappoint, but I gotta leave.
Oh, once we start talking about Star Wars,
I know.
there it is.
I got family issues. Please resume talking shit about me, as I assume you already were.
Oh, we only like doing it to Schlenzo.
It's only fun when people are here.
Thank you. Not at all. How could it be a disappointment? You actually took your time to join. I am so grateful, Ryan, and just grateful for you being here.
Oh, well, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks,
See ya.
Ryan.
Bye. I always appreciate, by the way, I'll say while everybody's on here, that I always appreciate the support. It's been, I think, the last 2 years. This is the 4th year of doing this stream, and the last 2 years, I don't think I've had more than a couple of minutes here and there where it was just me. I've always so I feel very supported by y'all here in particular.
You give us your time. I mean, simple as that. I think that for all our guests, so does Izzy, right? Other people have to give us their time for our show to happen. So how do we not
give
our time and energy back?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If I can tune in for an 11-hour movie marathon on Zoom, I can tune in for this. This is significantly more important.
Yeah, and granted, I may derail it with silly jokes.
No, there's no such thing as derailing if it's filling the time.
Right. Well, I told Ben, I was like, I don't know if I should join. I'm not a very serious person, and it tends to be very serious topics.
I feel that way too.
Ben was like, no,
the second I come on, it's Hulk Hogan.
Up.
Nothing but Hulk Hogan for like 5 straight minutes.
Brother. That's what they pulled me on. It was bait.
Yes,
I mean,
it worked.
An entire
so, hey.
5 or 6 hour episode on nothing but pro wrestling substance issues.
Gotta cut him off before he gets to CM Punk.
We should.
Straight
Hey,
edge
where's my
superstar.
mic mute? Oh. Well, let's say.
But I mean, interesting
yeah, go
figure
ahead.
though, Ben. I mean, possibly the most famous straight edge
Oh, what did I do?
individual, CM Punk.
Oh, no,
Seriously,
it was-
though. He is. I mean,
Yeah, go ahead.
I meant
talk
the
about
Ultimate
substance
Warrior,
abuse.
of course. That's what I meant to say.
No,
Sorry.
Warrior, totally not. He's got tons of substance problems. But CM Punk's whole thing was is being drug free, and he did become a role model to a lot of people. It would be interesting to see how much straight edge grew after his rise in popularity. I'm sure you knew he was the straight edge superstar, Ben. That's why you brought
I
him up.
didn't know.
Yep.
I just
Drug
knew he
free,
was a
alcohol
ghost
free. That has always been his shtick. And he hunts ghosts. The man can do almost all of it, except for getting along with his coworkers.
Well, any kind of ghost sighting is much more believable if you're sober, right? I mean, so they kind of go hand in hand. That brought it to a crashing halt.
I don't
Everybody's
know.
really thinking about that. Well, that was meant to be a toss away comment. Wow, that's a real thinker. I will say,
ghost hunting as it's at least a fun pastime, right? You get out of the house, you go somewhere fun. It's exhilarating.
And now, speaking of art inspired by, which we were speaking of a long time ago, Izzy and her paint group, but art inspired by things. Now, for some reason, my brain zeroed in on two words of what you said when you said straight edge grew, when you're wondering how much the straight edge movement grew. So, but now I want to see some fan art of straight edge Gru from Despicable Me. What would that look like? Because
Is he not straight edge?
Because that guy gets high. So
is he the minion boss? He's the minion guy. Okay.
Yeah,
I
he's
really
the
haven't
minion guy.
seen them because the minions themselves seem so goddamn annoying.
They are.
Yeah.
Oh.
Not to mention.
we need a
they
Reels
look
of
like
Justice
pills.
episode now.
Not to
about
mention
the
they look
Minion
like
movies.
pills. So if we're gonna go back to, are they getting kids addicted here to these pro pill looking characters?
What?
Because they're
look
shaped like pills.
Yes, exactly.
Are
They're
they
trying to get kids
asexual, by the
hooked.
way? Like, how do these things reproduce?
Well, you haven't watched the
you don't have
movies,
to
obviously.
No,
I have-
thought,
No, maybe
Gru
I'm
was
thinking of
cloning
the
them,
wrong
But
movies.
then it turns out the minions existed before Gru, so now I don't know how they came into being.
You're way deep in the lore more than I am, Ben. I don't know all the stuff about it. Yeah. So we're gonna, once we're off air, we need to set up one of your versus episodes where you can do the Minions movie versus
I just want to take
Despicable
down
Me
minions.
3.
Just stop there.
So-
Just stop there. I just want to take down minions.
So versus
And
Ben,
hate kids
the
movies.
Minions movie versus Ben. Got it. This is a good episode, guys. Patreon firewall. Anyway,
I don't want to take it down. I just want answers more than anything.
how do
On this damn kid movie.
you seem to know a lot about him for having so?
I don't see us ever doing a Patreon because I wouldn't want to decentivize anyone to consuming our content. It's like, you're going to put it behind a wall. It's like, no. If I made this, everybody watch it. It's
I
free.
want everybody to do it. Right. That's a good point. What about definitions? I want to ask you guys this. What is a definition of health when it comes to things? You, Rob, mentioned that you would use the seltzer method, that you'd cut down on drinking. But by the way you said, I don't drink as much. I think sometimes when it comes to addiction, people make the mistake of saying that complete 100% abstinence is the only possible goal. And it's one of the ways that we alienate people who struggle with addiction by saying, you're not allowed to. No matter what, right?
Too, because you face burnout and it can be hard. Like now, it's like the right time. If I'm going to go out somewhere and drink socially, that's fine. I think, if I'm not drinking at home alone, cool. Speaking on the topic too, I don't know. I've got alcohol here. I find it way easier to stop when it's around. If I stop it because I'm out, then I'm not doing it because I'm out, not because I'm making a conscious choice to go, no, I don't want you. So, I've had a 12-pack of beer in my fridge for 2 years, half, there's like 8 left. I'm not going to drink it then, but I can't buy
I wouldn't
more.
either.
I can't buy more because I have some, Ben. So I can't go out and buy more. Yeah,
Go out and buy something good. I don't want
This
to.
this is this is right. What I'm getting into is how do we self-define, and how do we determine what is and isn't healthy? Because I know that method works for a ton of people of saying this is here. In fact, I heard a story. I don't know the person firsthand. This is at a conference I went to. They're just talking about somebody whose method of getting away from cocaine abuse was that they hid a small amount of cocaine in a certain place, and they just didn't use it. Said, I'm not allowed to use it, and that's what helps me because I know it's there and I know I haven't done it.
Yeah.
So I have also met tons of people who hear those stories and say, yep, I'm going to do that. And it's like, so, every month I buy one to have for 12 years in my fridge, and I start the clock again, right? It's
clearly.
It's like on HBO's.
I'm not tossing it.
Anybody watch Barry on HBO? There's he has a murder addiction, and so to speak, and that they one of the little things they keep working in is that after something bad happens, he keeps saying like, okay, I got a nice clean lifestyle, crime free, starting now, and he keeps saying starting now, right? And so some people fall into that, and that doesn't work for them. They have to do something else, right? So, and having it inconvenient, having it all away is better for them personally. But neither one of those, both of those exist. Right. People love with addiction to put these blanket statements out and say, oh, you fill in the blank person are in denial, or you're not doing it correctly because you didn't do it the way I did it, or you didn't do it the way that this group says you should do it. So how do we find our own goals? Like, how did you find that, by the way, Rob? How did you land on that and say, this is what's healthy for me? Did you experiment
I think it goes back to when I quit smoking, which very easy. I did it about 5 or 6 times. Thank you. But yeah, like if I was like, this is my last cigarette in the pack, so it's my last cigarette, the first thing you want to do is go buy another pack. But when you rip the cellophane off, you knock 4 or 5 out of them, and you're like, I have a pack, but I'm just putting it down there. Like, I can't buy more now because I have some. I cannot go buy more. So as long as that gets me to not wander into the store, I'd be like, I have some at home. I don't need any.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've been quit smoke for almost 10 years and stuff. Probably 12.
That's awesome.
I lost count. And I'm and the dreams have stopped too. That's what's wonderful. There's so many dreams where you're smoking in dreams, or you relapse.
Yes.
I had so many relapse dreams where I'm smoking in the dream, and then I'm mad at myself because I know I'm not supposed to be. And then you wake up and you're like, hooray, it wasn't true.
I don't have to deal with that. Quick shout out. Thank you, Santa the Snowman, for the nice thumbs up for us.
Do you know that? Because I suspected Schlenzo because he loves snowmen so much.
That was the thumbs up.
I'm not sure.
Rob's being insightful here.
I'm not sure.
No,
I don't know who that was. It came in 2 minutes ago, so you were.
No, right when he was.
Yeah, maybe it was when we were talking about your method. So
yeah,
but
yeah, it works differently for other people.
Yeah.
The seltzer thing is something I've heard from a few other drinkers, that especially like the kind of guys who just crack a few beers after work. Being able to replicate that burn, like it's funny when you see, because I bring a lunchbox of like seltzers where I go. Like, when I go play Star Wars, I'll bring seltzers and I hand them out to people, and people are like, and they're doing, and some guy will be like, yes, this is exactly what I do too. No, they know my name. This is back to building community, and it's like, how do you get out there? I just started going out there. Last year, my friends were like, hey, there's a whole new Star Wars game. Do you guys want to start playing? And we just started going to a store, and we all made friends. We were laughing this year because my friend has a yearly pool party, and we had about 10 new people there. And he was like, it's so funny that we're still making friends. And it's like, yeah, it's for some people, it's very hard. I don't want to say it's easy, but like for us, it was easy. I'm the type of guy, when I get into a community like that, I just kind of creep up the hierarchy. I don't take orders well. So
you're all the way up to being Rose now.
Yes, exactly. But it's going into the community and making it what you want it to be. I think, and making it supportive in the ways that work for us.
That's a good skill. I mean, it is. And then you're also helping it to be healthy for other people. Yeah.
If you can, it's like, you don't have to listen to that jerk guy. He could shut up. He doesn't define the rules here. You do.
Ben?
No. Ben's on this side of the screen for me.
Oh, really? Because he's
so-
on that side for me, so it looked like you were.
Oh,
So who were you pointing? Who were you thinking you were pointing at?
So every time I was leaning over and licking the screen, you weren't
Yeah.
getting any of my jokes.
Now I want to know who you were thinking you were pointing at.
It was me.
But yeah, but that's strength too. I know that I have that extrovertedness to me. Like, actually, I was just with 2 friends yesterday. We went out to the fair, and they can't stand to be in public with me because I talk to strangers. I'm very loud.
I love having a person like that with me.
And they can't stand it. They get so embarrassed, which of course makes it. I'm going to do
Funnier.
It
You're
worse
going to do
then.
it more.
I'm going to be
right?
even worse. I was like, wait, you think I'm being embarrassing? Like, and it's the total opposite. Like when Schlenzo and I, we also went to the fair, the same fair, but we went the day before. And we are both talking to people, and we draw crowds. And we actually saw a juggler there who had like 2 people watching him. And I was like, Schlenzo, let's go watch this juggler. Let's cheer loudly, and we'll get a crowd for him. And sure enough, a few minutes later, there's 20 people around, and everyone's cheering and clapping along with us too. It's like if you go first, people will follow. If you want, you set the standard, you set the example. And I mean, if nobody joined us and cheered up, I wouldn't care. I just keep doing it. Probably worse. I'm not. But
That's probably one of the keys, though, to helping. Right? Is that if you were real worried about it, it would be hard to.
And it's easy with a guy like Schlenzo too, who goes with you, right? Because then you've got, backup.
You got backup, right?
Yeah,
right.
it would be hard.
Or if you like to make fun of the people who don't like you doing it, that's also a form of backup.
Absolutely, yeah. No, one of our
Unintentional.
Yeah. I mean, we like going to those kind of things and watching the tractor pulls and cheering way too loudly for certain people. Then nobody understands why we're cheering for those people real loudly, and it's just a thing to do. So but I think you set the tone of the community you're a part of, and if you feel like you can't set the tone, then maybe you're not so much in that community as you think you are, and you might have to find another one. Like if you lead and no one follows, well, maybe they don't care about you as much.
And then there's kind of the more like individual networking, right? Do I find somebody in a community that is, someone that I have that connection to? Speaking of someone that we all have a connection to. Oh,
no! Are you Santa the Snowman? You could tell me. No, we can't hear you.
Oh no, your mic's not hooked up. So Dylan Schlender, joining us as well. We have rounded out the entire Reels of Justice gang. Wow, this is amazing. So
I'm just saying, I've never seen Dylan and Ryan in the same room at the same time. So.
It's almost like they're avoiding.
You've never seen them at the same county fair at the same time?
No, I have not.
Sorry, county or state?
All 4 of us have never been in the same room. Ben is the only one who has met Ryan in person.
Yeah.
I mean, besides Izzy, of course, but of the Reels boys.
Oh. All right. Isn't that is a funny thing? Speaking of different communities, I'm going to put a plug in for onlineness, because people still, and I think it's people maybe around my age and older, our age, however old everybody here is, that look at it and say, oh, internet-based relationships, they're not as good as normal relationships. And I will say, being a podcaster, there are tons of people that I have really close relationships that I've never been physically in the same room with, right? I would say that you guys, there's 4 of you, and I assume you're all pretty good friends. At least however many of you are. I don't know. Oh, it looks like you're muted, Dylan.
I mean,
let's see if I can unmute you.
I don't like that. And even with my best friend, I'll tell her, and I'm like, yeah, but are they really your friends? And I'm just like, yeah, like, yeah, they are.
Would you be sad if they stopped talking? Then yeah, they're a friend.
Yeah, if any one of you came to Houston and for some, not with forbid, I mean, I'm sure nobody wants to do that really, but if for some reason you are all in Houston, any one of you, and you needed a ride, or you were like, hey, I'm going to come and visit and show me around, I would do that, because I very much consider all my friends.
My plane is landing.
Yes, I'm available, and I'm going to the museum on Tuesday. You want to join me and my best friend as we go to the Museum of Natural Science and look at, butterflies?
I love the dinosaurs.
Yeah, and I think there's extreme animals there. Extreme. I don't know. I don't know why they're extreme. I think it's for kids to like.
Well, you don't know
tiny
yet. You'll find
foxes
out
or
tomorrow.
something. Yeah, I'll find out.
Is
I'll
it
find out on Tuesday.
EXT or XT?
Oh, I
They
don't
started
know.
with an E.
Maybe it's not extreme,
most
but they're
extreme
live
Really
animals.
extreme, don't use the E. Schlenzer, would you figure out your microphone yet?
Extreme.
Can we hear you
He's
yet?
still trying.
Yes, I figured out.
It's
StreamYard,
settings. and then
hey,
there's audio.
Dylan,
You might want to just make sure.
I don't know if you can hear us. StreamYard sometimes won't connect to your mic if it's connected to another open program. So if you have Zoom or Riverside or something,
Discord.
you close that. Discord.
Yeah, you can also. go
Sometimes
into
that
your-
helps, and then if you hit refresh or something. So on this side, it says you're not muted within StreamYard though. So it's a little more behind the curtain podcast for you guys.
Yeah, I had to give it permissions
works.
too when I joined and stuff.
We all permissions, and also you need to message your all credit card numbers, not just some. You have to message that in the messaging.
You got to put
And
money
there
in
you go.
Ben's debit
Yeah.
account, is what I heard.
Yeah.
And I
Or
think
the
almost
thing is,
everybody
the
here
thing that-
thought that. I think the majority of our group agreed, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So
You
But
guys
otherwise,
need to look it up.
Ben Schlenzer and I mean, we've hung out in like New York, and so we've been able to do some things. I would love to get all four of us in one
I
place.
would
at one
love you.
time.
I would love for you guys too. Unfortunately, I don't know how much
We have to
Ryan,
get
Ryan will be
Schlenzer
up.
to go to California, and he hates
Well,
it.
Well, he's
once-
gonna go visit you, so like we just need to crash at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, he'll
And
be
you know what?
here at the beginning of November, so you're welcome to crash
Oh,
anyone.
I bet he would appreciate that.
He would hate that.
He'd love it.
He would
He'd love it.
absolutely.
and
hate
don't
that.
tell him. That's the
I would
thing. You
love it.
definitely,
He would hate it.
Um,
You're staying with Izzy. I'm staying with Izzy. What a coincidence!
We could sleep head to toe.
Yeah.
He'd just be like, "I hate all of you so much right now." Yeah, no, it's called Extreme Animals Alive.
Extreme
That's
with like an
preferred.
EX though.
Shape-shifting.
they're alive.
Yeah,
Well,
apparently shape-shifting, mind
If they're
control,
living, depending on what
invincibility,
kind of
and more.
museum.
Basically, it has animals, and then they're talking about their adaptations within nature and everything. But they actually do have some animals in there, like a cute little fox and some snakes and little like lizards and froggies and stuff. All the cute little things that aren't
Are
going to
those
kill
extreme?
anybody.
Some of them are.
I mean, maybe they have cool science. That's where I'm going to go. I'm going to find out. I'm going to learn. It's probably a kid exhibit. I don't care.
No, there's usually stuff all around.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
really
that-
love the
Enjoyment.
death
You're
by
gonna be with
natural
your friend.
causes. Yeah, it's our bonding time. I love going to museum. Death by natural causes. I don't know if that's something that does the rounds, but oh my god, the knowledge of how many things in the world that can kill you.
It's almost like amazing anyone's alive, isn't it?
Yeah, honestly,
I'm
it
happy
really
not
is.
knowing. I prefer not to know.
But it's fascinating, especially like the older things, like the green dye and like clothing that they used to use was poisonous to us. People used to drink radium.
Hang on, I gotta go.
True.
but it was really fascinating, like how arsenic, like things like that, like how it's in like basically apple seeds. It's
Everything.
in all of these things that
Apple
are
seeds, yeah.
around, and you just don't ingest it enough to hurt yourself.
Those
But
things
it's just
terrify
fascinating.
me because we have learned what was so dangerous 40 or 50 years ago. So think about in 40 or 50 years when they
It's
know
dangerous now.
everything was dangerous now. And they're like, oh,
Yeah.
what?
Everybody was
Diet Coke?
podcasting.
Are
They thought
you
they didn't
insane?
know.
Like, podcasting causes what? Yeah.
I mean,
Still,
I think
it's
about cell phones all the
fascinating.
time. There is
Oh
no
yeah.
there is no study of what 20 to 30 years of exposure to a cell phone would do to you because
Sure.
it's impossible to test. So
Yeah. We don't know
I'm
yet.
gonna-
We'll find out.
I'm gonna hit share screen here while we're talking because I want to run something by you guys, introduce you to something that I found. And
Oh.
while I was
Aha!
I knew it.
I
knew it.
okay, so you knew it was going to be the British musical Isabel's a Jezebel. No, actually,
No, I knew Izzy was a Jezzy.
Yeah.
Well, let me
It's
show you what
just-
this
I've been told that
actually is.
before.
I didn't know it was going to do that, and that's the point actually, because we're talking about finding interest in the world around you. Basically, is the thing I did want to share, and I didn't know about this, but this is called Wiki Roulette, and you just go to wikiroulette.co,
Oh, is
and
this
then
gonna get dangerous?
whoa, let's not
Yeah,
do that one.
well.
My word, never mind. I didn't know it was going to be okay. So you go to the Wiki Roulette. So one of the things that people have struggled with is like if I want to learn something, or if I want to say like Chris Revel, who was here earlier, he said that he deletes his social media apps every weekend so that he has to do other things, right? So what if I want to do other things, or what if I'm trying not to doom scroll or do something depressing, or I want to find a new hobby or just something to fill time and not get high? So if you go and find random topic things. So right now, the 162nd Turkestan Division, a military division formed in World War II. Now, if you hate that, hit next again. Or if you're not interested in it, you know. And here is a South Korean lawyer, politician, and diplomat. Out of respect, I'm not going to try to do the name because I'm not good with with certain pronunciations. So, anybody skilled on Asian pronunciations? Ben?
Yoon Hong Chu.
Yeah.
There you go. I just know that you. Although he's Korean, not Japanese, but I know that you've been.
Yeah.
I'm offended before Ben.
Carbuncles. Yeah. Oh no.
All right. Now
no, this is a beetle. Okay, here we go. Let's look at this guy. So this is I would call this an extreme animal. But
I would look at those antennae. It goes like
how
past
cool
his body.
This guy is. Yeah. This is awesome. Now, not to say that Wiki Roulette is the only way to find random topics. I will say, though, that it's something I didn't know existed, and now I do, thanks to this prep for this.
So was it completely random that Isabel the Jezebel just so happened to be the first thing, and Isabel's actually?
It was. I opened it up. I just well, what happens is when you open the site, it just goes to something right away as soon as you go to the page. So when I open the page,
a tarot read. It's just trying to tell me something right now. What's happening?
Oh, well, it looked like it was a musical based off of Grimm's fairy tales.
Yeah.
So
which I love, and I didn't know
which I had never heard of before. So there you go. Those of you listeners who love and or hate musicals, you can look at it for different reasons. Life-giving, a music album debut by Australia. Australius? Is that how you say that? Australius? Anybody know them? You guys fans?
No.
Utah.
Yeah. Anyway, so here's the thing. Like, if you did want to do something with your time and find interest in something that isn't just, whatever, the same algorithm, I guess. And by the way, I have no idea how the algorithm might affect with this, but, here, if I pulled this up, for example, I could probably look them up on Spotify or something and play their music and see if I like it.
New Age,
something you can learn.
2005. I was 15. Jeez.
2005 New Age. Yeah, that's it. That's checking all the boxes here, isn't it? Nothing again. Maybe they're listening. Sorry if Australius is listening. 1976 in Laos. Here's a list of events that happened in Laos in 1976. This is dope. I'm gonna keep doing this.
Yeah, and especially I can get into some. I think that is one thing I try to do with like writing my intros for the 80s show is I try to find a subject matter to talk about because sometimes that's easier than just being like, here's a diary entry of my life, because it's just a little easier to write. But I think we even talked about it for when we went over the short. Oh my God, Ave Maria. And you learned about Walpurgis Night, where I learned about the Lady of the Lake, and it's just funny how we were both kind of looking at the same material, yet somehow wound up into two different rabbit holes.
Absolutely, and it was something that ostensibly we were just talking about the final musical number in Fantasia, right? But yet it led to all this other stuff because it's like just because. And here's the thing. I'm fascinated by this as a podcaster because when I know I'm going to have to talk about something and I'm like, oh, and I can't even hit pause because I'm guesting on someone else's podcast. So I can't do it while I'm doing it. Not that they do that, but I have to like do prep all at once and actually read stuff. And so when you read stuff, it's like, I would never have looked any of that up, before, but I did. For that. And so now I have this little part of me, and it inspired some different thoughts that we talked about when we were recording of like, hey, we should do an episode about how all the, how modern, the modern traditions draw from paganism and just something like that. Right. That would be an interesting historical look that's cultural enough to bring onto mind. And I don't know if you guys have ever caught on, but my show is purposefully vague in its topics. It's psychology and culture. There we go. I can talk about whatever I want, really. So there's a little behind the curtain for everybody.
Open-endedness.
Exactly. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, it's just an interesting thing to where the world out there is really interesting enough that we never really have to be bored. However, we often can be, right? And that can lead to trouble.
Who would did find the wiki roulette boring though. Like I don't know if I could
There
read
you
like
go.
2 articles. I couldn't kill 10
So
minutes doing that.
No. What I do is like I land on something interesting, like some serial killer, and then that leads me to the epidemic that happened in that age, and then that leads me to like you just like use the thread of what you're interested in with the little links in the page.
this is exactly what I'm hoping to provoke here with Wiki Roulette is a discussion of how do you find things that grab your interest if you ever have to actually look, or this is another thing where ADHD comes in handy sometimes. But yeah, what are your guys' thoughts?
You know, I watched that new movie Eden, right? And that definitely made me go down the rabbit hole of finding out all the true story behind it. And you know, watching documentaries into it. But you know, there had to be an Ana de Armas or Sydney Sweeney movie to start that. It already had to. There had to be an anchor interest for me to get.
So you start on the IMDb pages of certain people. Hi, Dylan. Can you talk yet?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
should we all tell him that we still can't hear him just to gaslight him? Or should we admit it?
I feel like such a hack. My big expensive microphone's not working on my fancy laptop, so I got to use my work headset like some schlub.
Hey,
I know it's plugged. It's not even USB-C. Oh God. How's everyone doing? Did we do it? Did we?
Are you Santa the Snowman? You can tell us.
Yes, I am.
I knew it. Yes.
I don't know why it didn't switch over because it said it was fine on my account, but whatever. So did we do it? Have we cured the overdose problem?
Several times now.
70%. We're at 70. Oh wait, hold 71. So I just
hey, good work, guys.
Sonzo, you can speak to how good seltzer water is as a replacement too.
You know, honestly, I got to say that is actually this is pretty funny because Maynard and I
gave that tip to me.
We kind of stopped drinking around the same time. Actually, a few of my friends, we all kind of stopped drinking around the same time, and I found that to be very helpful as replacing that habit of just going to the fridge and grabbing something to drink. And then, of course, fizzy water doesn't have any calories, so you're not getting any empty calories by drinking your calories. So
it's a lot more interesting than regular water.
It is.
Fizzy water.
Yeah. No, I mean it burns a bit, but like I can chug fizzy water just as well, I suppose. But to each their own, and there are so many great flavors. No, but I found that to be a very helpful way to transition away from alcohol. And I started small too, because first it was just like no alcohol in my house, and then it was like I'll only drink if I'm out socially, and then it would be I'm only going to drink if I'm out socially having a meal, and then it's just gone. So that's pretty good.
So that's a great example of what we were talking about before is the difference, right? Because here's within the same social group in the same time frame. Because like Rob, you were saying that for you it's helpful to have it in the house so that you don't think about it like I'm out, and so then Dylan, you're thinking about it like it's actually a bit better for you to just not have it in your pathway at all.
Oh, exactly. I have no talent for moderation, so if I have anything around, I'm using all of it.
But at least you know that.
Charm as well. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Let me tell you about this juggler Maynard and I saw. No, I heard that part.
So he was there the next day too when I went, but he was just starting, and so all I did was walk by and go juggle already, and I kept going.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, man, that fair was a lot of fun. Yeah,
I bet it would be a lot
make
of
our
fun
own
hanging out
fun,
with you
right?
guys.
If we went to something boring, we would make our own fun, and we would make our own friends.
That's true. We do
Yeah.
have a way of doing that.
I'm intimidated to do that, but it's always nice to have someone. I think, like with my relationships, I was with someone where it was like I had to be home all the time because it was just confiding and like it was like I was under confinement. I very much describe my life as living under a rock. Like I didn't even watch a lot of movies from that time and everything. So getting out of it, it's like I went into a relationship that was a complete opposite. I am still friends with him. That is my buddy, but it's just funny because it was so nice to go from someone who wanted to shield away from everyone, not engaged, to being with someone who's just like, hey, you're my new buddy. Let's talk like all the time. And it's just like, oh, good. I don't have to be an extrovert because I have an extrovert with me because I can talk. I can engage in a conversation once it's there, but I feel like I'm too weird to engage in a conversation on my own because that awkwardness comes out sometimes. So it's nice to have that extrovert who just does it for you. And you don't have
There needs to be an
worry about
introvert
that.
adoption service where
Yes.
extroverts just come in and stop
Very
around
much,
it.
I would have to stop Maynard from taking more in. Like, Maynard, we can't feed this many mouths.
Like an example,
You
I
followed
don't think
me home.
introverts like it. You know, my friends were embarrassed of me talking to strangers.
and that's
You know,
weird to
yesterday
me.
they don't want it, and they're like, oh my god, I'm gonna die, and they'll just walk away.
Oh no. I guess there's certain days where I'm like, if I'm overloaded, but I wouldn't go out if I was overloaded in general. But if I'm going out, I want to engage with people, and it's really fun to just talk to random people and not have any expectations of anything happening. And then especially if it becomes a friendship, that's even cooler.
See, I think it's easy because they're strangers. It's like,
Yeah.
if I humiliate myself, I never have to see
I'm never
you
going to
again.
see you again.
Yeah, like
I feel like
no.
I have more fun when I go to Detroit because I'm like, maybe I'll see you next year when I visit my family, but otherwise probably not. So later, I'll just act crazy while I'm up here because it doesn't matter.
You know what kind of wraps into this? I've heard, I don't know if it's true or not, but they say people tend to be the average of the 7 people they hang out with the most, So if you surround yourself with people that you kind of aspire to be, it probably help, So if you have access to those people, that
I'm not getting any taller.
good.
I can take multitudes.
But you've gotten a lot stronger, though.
You need even taller friends.
Yes.
Rob. They're not tall enough. That's the lesson I'm learning.
Well, actually, I was saying that to Maynard the other
Get?
day.
You're so tall. All
Yeah,
of you guys are tall.
Exactly. I was saying that to
How do you
Maynard. I
know?
said, Maynard, you're not short. It's just that I'm so huge, you forget that you're actually a taller than average guy.
Did you
but if
say
I hung
that
out
with
shorter people, I actually would be taller.
Yes, you would.
Well, then you would be. I was hoping, Dylan, you didn't mention that before he ever brought up the idea. Maybe that you just kept mentioning that to him every day. Hey, you're not short, and you're like,
Yeah.
why are you telling me this?
Yeah, just randomly. Text him randomly. Hey, still. Yeah.
Finding that, finding where to work with that within ourselves, right? And like introvert, extrovert on that scale of saying, am I an introvert who likes being with an extrovert? Am I an introvert who's afraid of Robb interacting with jugglers? Whatever. That's a very specific phobia, but I studied it in graduate school, and now it makes sense for the first time.
Finally paying off.
Does anybody? Is anybody is a decent follow on social media if you're into like TikTok or Instagram Reels or whatever? Troy Hawk. Anybody familiar with him? He's a British comedian. Yeah, no, I don't. Well, I don't actually. I don't know that for sure. I don't know if they're related. It could be a Woody Harrelson, Matthew McConaughey situation. So there's a deep cut in Hollywood culture. So, but no, he's a British comedian, and you might have seen clips. You might recognize him. He wears like a sort of a fancy purple smoking jacket kind of thing. So he's dressed with a cravat, and he just kind of dresses old school. And what he does is he just walks around, and he comes up with interesting compliments to give strangers. So it's a guy on the street thing to where someone will go by, and he'll just say something like, "That color with your hair, that's amazing."
Oh,
Keep
like
that
the
up,
white cat calling?
Yeah, kind of like, and it's an interesting, some people engage with it more than others, and who knows, I'm sure they must edit some of the videos or however they do it, but just whatever level of reality is going on there, or it's entertaining because he's a funny guy, and he comes up with ways of saying like, "Oh, you carry yourself like a ship's captain. I'd follow you into a storm," and just
distinguished looking nose hair.
yeah. Did things like that to where they're sincerely compliments, but they catch people off guard, right? And so anyway, but it's interesting as we're talking about interactions with people that maybe they're not expecting, or whatever. It's just an interesting thing to see how people react to, oh, this guy just actually said something. What did you say? Oh, it's nice. Okay. Anyway, just that kind of interaction piece of going with people. So I was thinking of that in particular, but wanted to kind of float this out to you guys. So what about that of we were just talking before you came on, Dylan, of how do you find things? Either there are things to do or things to fill in the gap. If someone there's a big part of addiction recovery is finding, how do I spend my time? What if the thing that I'm medicating is boredom, for example, and I don't want to relapse tonight. So I need something, whether it's an activity, an interest. We looked at, random topic generators on the internet. And Rob made the great point that it's like some people would find that fascinating and some would find it just boring as hell.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm interested in different thoughts. How do we locate ideas, topics, things to do?
Man, that is a really good question. I could write a book if I had a good answer. But you know what I think?
That applies to so many topics.
I know,
You
that's
could write
true.
one even if you didn't.
But here, that's true. I would be able to sell it fine. You know what I found for the things that I've stuck with personally when I've looked for new interests or new hobbies that I've gained? For me, it's when they have a little bit of friction in them, right? So it's something that has a little inertia, something that takes a bit of effort to do when there are easier alternatives, right? So like lifting weights, you know, you actually have to go to the gym, you actually have to do it. Like shaving with a safety razor instead of, you know, like little things like that, or smoking a pipe. You know, I mean, I don't know how much we want to promote nicotine smoking, but I love pipe smoking, you know, and that's something you got to sit down, you pack it, load it,
But it's all
light
the
it,
techniques,
you know.
and
Yeah,
all of those
exactly.
techniques that you have to learn.
Yeah. So, and then even something as simple as like collecting vinyl, you know, you have to get up, switch the record. I mean, it doesn't seem like a lot, but in this day and age, when ironically we're in front of screens right now, you know, if you have a job like I do where you're in front of a screen all day, you're on a conference call all day, you know, like it can really start getting to you. So being able to get away from the frictionless world, you know, I mean, like go to the flea market and haggle with someone with like cash. No, like I'm serious.
Make me.
You know what I mean? Like,
We
like,
do.
yeah, I know. Mayor and I frequent flea markets and stuff. You know,
I mean, but it's also not controlled
Yeah.
confrontation, but bartering is fun. It's kind of exhilarating if
Yeah.
you're into that.
But so next time you need something, instead of just going to Amazon and adding to cart, because that's nothing, right? Like that's just boom, you're done. You know, go out, see if you can get a deal. You know, so I find that any new
People find
hobby,
thrifting to be a thrift shopping to be kind of like that, like what
yeah,
you
a
just
little
said.
bit, yeah,
There's
exactly.
a little bit of, especially if you try to find somewhere interesting that has like a you know, for a charity or something, or there's an attachment to it.
yeah. Yeah, no, so just add a little friction to your life and things, not things that will cause you consternation, you know, but like if you need groceries, you know, going to the farmer's market instead of going to like, you know, the supermarket or something, you know, like little things like that, I think
it's about
those
breaking
help,
out
yeah.
of a comfort zone. If
Yeah.
you're not happy with how things are going, it'll never change if you keep doing the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Try something different, and sometimes it won't stick and you have to try again. Like you know, as far as like fitness and stuff, I've had to start and stop over and over. You know, with diet too. You know, I would start and I would fail, and I would start and I would fail. But what I realized over time is that every time I started, I was picking up or building a good micro habit.
Yeah.
And what finally worked, and what I realized is, once they all came together, once they were simpler, and I did them all at the same time, you know, on the 5th or 6th try, I was like, oh, they're all happening now, like all at once now. You know, I was doing one thing at first and it wasn't enough, and then another thing, and then finally they were all so easy to just put together that it so far has stuck. But you know, but you have to keep getting up and doing it, and that's still breaking out of your comfort zone.
You know, that reminds me, I'm sure, I'm almost positive Dwight's read it, and maybe Ben would say he's read it, but probably hasn't, is Atomic Habits by James Clear. And to Maynard's point, this is something that he talks about in one of the first chapters. It was the guy who was in charge of the like French bicycle team, right? And they were like dead last. And he looked for like, what are like the 1% changes that are going to give us like the most effect. And like he looked at everything they did, and he just changed really little things, right? Like he got them like better pillows for sleeping. We're talking really small stuff. And then like 3 years later, after doing all these little changes, kind of like what Maynard was talking about, they all eventually snowballed. You kind of had a compound interest of habits, and then they became like one of the best bicycle teams in the world, you know? So I think there is something to it. It's like starting small. You don't have to do everything at once. You know, a popular saying is people really overestimate what they could do in a week and grossly underestimate what they can do in a year. You know, so if you could give yourself that time horizon and know that falling off doesn't mean you're done. See, that's always the problem too with like that I've read about addiction is like one of the reasons cigarette smokers don't give up cigarette smoking is because like they'll quit for 2 weeks and then they'll smoke and they're like, oh, I blew it. Whereas realizing that having that cigarette 2 weeks into it, that's part of the quitting process, and
it's also 14 days without a cigarette.
Yeah.
What's that, Rob?
Quitting smoking is easy. I've done it 5 or 6 times.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And it's like what Mary said about fitness too, it's like, you're not going to, like, if like strength is your goal, you're going to be weaker than you want by definition as soon as you start training, and then you'd be very surprised because everyone thinks about what's the max I can lift, what's the max, and you don't realize how much of a floor you're building now. And so you'll be warming up with weights that, people would like, that's their goal to hit, and you could just do it now, and you're always looking ahead at the next thing. You got to take stock of how far you've
it's a game of inches too. Today I did like half a chin up, which would have been impossible like a year ago even, but especially 2 years ago, completely impossible. But to even be able to lift myself a little bit like that was something that I would have considered out of the realm of possibility, and you just have to kind of keep sticking up with it. Soon it'll become a full one, and then before I know it, it'll be 2 or 3.
Oh yeah.
There's levels to things also. I think that when we look at addiction, is oftentimes a maladaptive coping mechanism. Like I've said, it's a solution to a problem that doesn't work. So if you look at that on a range of coping mechanisms, coping skills, or just the way we spend our time, and if we were to make a big old list of like, here's the least healthy way to spend our time, or the most destructive at the bottom, all the way up to the most healthy. One of the things I think is interesting, because I'm a nerd and think about this stuff a lot, but one of the things that I think is exactly one of the things I think is interesting is I've noticed that if people sit around and they say, what are the most destructive, least healthy things that a person could do? A lot of the things they will say will be the same. But if you say, okay, what's the healthiest, the number one at the top? There isn't one, not an automatic one, and certainly not an objective one.
No, it's lifting weights. That's the answer.
Damn it. Now you've ruined my entire analogy. I can't even use that in session anymore now. Thanks a lot. I'll be like, until we discovered. Yeah. But where do we place
up
it?
to 73% now. Well done, guys.
No, it's number one for Schlender.
Oh, no.
Right? For sure. It's
right. That's exactly
yes,
right. Exactly the point, right? Yeah. Is that it's up there at that number one for you. Whereas there's lots of people who won't. Yeah, exactly. So, but anything on a scale like that, if you think about it, I like to look and say the bottom, especially the parts that we could all say, well, that's self-destructive. We all can come up with a couple right now. Ready? No. But if we look at that and say, okay, there's a lot of those, and then there's maybe my personal self-destructive that's layered on top of that. Literally anything above that is not that. I always like to look at it like that. So it's like, am I doing something that is not as good as the thing above it? Well, yeah, but that's the definition of a list like that, right? And so am I doing anything that's not one of those things? It's already something that we're doing. We're already engaging with our life to some extent and doing a thing. Now, what do I do above that, and what do I want to shape, right? Does that make sense?
No, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
I didn't follow it. I'm not smart enough for it.
Damn it.
You know what I think ties into that?
3 out of 4.
Yeah, that's pretty good, man. One thing I think ties into that, and I think about this a lot too, is like the content people are consuming. Because everyone talks about like doom scrolling just in and of itself being bad, but like beyond that, like if you're finding yourself in a position where you're just consuming tons of negative media, I don't even mean just like like the news or anything like that, but there's some, and I'm not throwing shade on true crime podcasters. We happen to be friends with a few of them, and they're lovely people, but like imagine if that's all you did was listen to true crime, just listening about people getting murdered
I have
all day. I know, but like
I think after a couple of weeks I was like, I think I need to change this for a little while.
Yeah, and then on the flip side, if you're able to integrate some positive content, and whatever that would be for you, like maybe it would be like listen, like, so like for a guy like Ben, it would be listening to like his Saki podcast, or for me it's like listening to Dave Ramsey so I can yell at the rubes who are spending too much money, you know what I mean? But like that kind of positive stuff, that can help build motivation. And if you can use your motivation to develop disciplines, because discipline will trump motivation anytime. Anyone can be motivated for a little bit, but to have the discipline to continue, that's pretty good. And so if you've got to make sure you're consuming positive content that gives you that motivation that will lead to that discipline. I could be a pretty good counselor, don't you think, Dwight?
True crime doesn't have that effect on me that it does other people.
Well, I was just using that as like a broad example. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I want to solve it. It's just like no, it's like the world like has these problems, and I want to solve it. Like it's a puzzle, you know. It's a
yeah.
I think as I've gotten older, I have an appreciation to see people's joy, and I do want, like, reality is reality, but I want to see people's reality of having joyful moments. And I think when I was younger, I took that for granted. But I like experiencing other people's joy, and I can find my own joy in seeing theirs, and like I don't have to be jealous of it or something.
Yeah, like the joy of killing an abusive husband and dismembering his body, and
he had it coming, you know.
Yeah.
He finally had him. So
yeah, there's a certain perspective where that's not all negative, but yeah,
is
I think
there
the whales again, Dwight? You need to steer us back on.
But I think what Spencer's point is our worldview is informed by what we surround ourselves with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, I'm going to throw out this. I'd like to get a take on this. Productivity. I feel like there is a certain focus on productivity that is extremely toxic that we are pushed to have, which is that everything gets better, which is not psychologically literate, for one thing. That's not how things work. You know, they don't get better. There's setbacks and things along the way. Yet making progress in our goals and things is good, but productivity that's the extreme, right? And then of course the other extreme is we don't ever actually make any progress or develop discipline, like you're saying, Dylan. But for me, one of the healthy balances there is trying to say, even if I'm doing something that leads to other things, I want to try to find a way to say, do I enjoy or at least feel good about what I'm doing today? Because if I don't, and it's only to lead me to something else, then it's kind of like what we were saying about like having to monetize every hobby, right? Or every interest. It's like, I'm only doing this because it's going to lead to something else. It's probably not as healthy as if I'm doing it because, I like it. And maybe it leads somewhere else too. That's fine. But I also like or feel fulfilled about doing what I'm doing. What are you guys' thoughts?
Not enjoying the journey. Like you only care about the destination. You don't enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
It can be harder and harder to wake up every day and continue your journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, Dwight. And actually, it's kind of funny. Like, I think you're seeing the pendulum swing in that other direction, because for such a long time, it was always like, I just read like an article about this. I just called like optimizing ourselves to death. You know, like everyone's like, you have to have a morning routine. You know, you have to do this, have to do that. You know, and it's like making your life so regimented and optimized for like maximum efficiency. But it's like almost to what end? You know, so I think you make a good point about being present in what you're doing. And it kind of goes back to what we were saying too, like what you could do in a year, like taking that long view. You know, like if you look at like the stock market, for example, and you look at like any 1 month, it could look like, oh my God, we lost everything, or oh my God, it's never been this high. But if you zoom out, you see.
Shouldn't be looking at the news, Dylan.
Well, no, this is part of it though. So if you zoom out and you look at like the total market, like it goes up and down, up and down, up and down, but it trends up, and so you're gonna have those days where like that's a down day. But would that have been a down day for you like 3 years ago? You know what I mean? It's so like.
Can I have a down day? Right? There's also that. Do I have permission to have a down day or week or whatever, and say, yeah. And I think that we also factor in the division of attention and energy that we have when it's like, if I'm working on this and then all of a sudden I have certain life events can take out that productivity or progress for a year, right? It's this period of time I had this event happen, or whatever the major life event could be. And it's like, that took a lot of my time and energy, and that's okay, right? To that kind of a thing, are we evaluating kind of our whole experience?
Without getting into too much detail, I was there. It was like a good solid 3 years where I look back, I was like, that's like a lost 3 years, but I'm definitely back.
But
on
is
the
it?
other side of
yeah,
it.
but is it
from it? It's like, it's like I guess
Which
it's not
Lenzo
really.
didn't, but-
Yeah. No, I know. It's like, but it's funny now because you're like, oh, if I could have this mindset that I have now, then, but you wouldn't have gotten here without having been there, I suppose, But yeah, that's a really good point, Dwight. I can resonate with that quite a bit.
I think people put pressure on themselves to like put someone else's solution onto them. Like someone else's solution may not be your solution. Like when it comes to anything like dieting or whatever, like it may not be your thing. If you like sweets or whatever, there's a solution for you, but the one that worked for them where they cut out all sugar might not be your solution. And people like feel like, well, since it worked for them so well, I got to do that. And if I can't do it the way they did, then I failed.
What a great day and age we live in, though, because there's so many candy alternatives, sweet alternatives that have less sugar that you can replace stuff with.
That was an analogy.
But the answers are out there in a lot of ways for replacements and alternatives that weren't in, even 20 years ago. You basically had Diet Coke and that was about it.
Yeah, I know. Man, we just had those delicious ice cream bars that were only 80 calories each, and it scratched the ice cream itch for me. Yes, that was great. They're not a sponsor. You can't say that.
I can say whatever I want.
No, they're a sponsor of this show, not of your. No.
Oh no,
that's because we don't have sponsors. We don't take any blood money.
I'm willing to take blood money though, so call me.
Yeah, but only money covered in blood.
Isn't that what it meant?
Literal. Yeah, Dylan doesn't like to mess around when it comes to blood money. So.
No, very serious.
Yeah. Well, and that's a healthy, Rob, you're just mentioning a healthy use of the resources of today. And I think sometimes we don't talk about that enough. And there is a risk sometimes that when we over obsess on the negativity of, here's all the things that we have to be careful of, we also then maybe miss out on the fact that, just like you said, I can find a lot of things that might meet a need, right? Or I can find there's a lot of stuff that's out there. It's just being able to consume in an intelligent or healthy kind of a way. And that's kind of difficult. And you see this with any type of compulsive things, any type of addiction, is we get stuck in this is the automatic thing to do versus let me shake it up and do the different thing. Let me try to get out of my algorithm and look up things, or let me try to whatever.
Like with fitness, people will tell you, join a gym. But for a lot of people, that is not the answer. Like going to the gym,
majority
feel worse.
Yeah,
because
when they do
so
statistical,
they're judging. And Schlenzo and I, we
I'm running on the
gym.
treadmill, and some like fit person just goes on and gets like 100 miles an hour, and I'm like, I'm all right.
Right, and it's tough, but you're comparing yourself to them, but it's how much longer have they been doing it compared to you?
No,
I used to work out with Schlenzo. And he lifted a lot more weight than me, and it was like, well, okay, but he's been doing it for so long, that of course he can lift. But if you look, well, how far was Schlenzo just a year in compared to how far I am just a year in? I'm beating his ass. He's way behind. And that's the kind of perspective you got to think of. But
because I didn't have the benefit
gym.
of me teaching me. You had the benefit of me teaching you. That's why.
Oh no.
What's the opposite?
Now I'll be beating his ass.
What's the opposite of imposter syndrome? No.
They call it Maynard disease, I think.
No, it's really good points. And I would say, to tag on to yours, Ben, when you just mentioned that, certainly if I'm feeling an intimidation by the person on the treadmill next to me, yeah, I could say, I'll try not to compare myself. Or the other lesson from that could be, this is triggering part of me that compares myself, and I'm not enjoying the gym. And so rather than give up exercising, maybe I'll do something that's not the gym. Because that's one thing I don't like about the gym.
That was one of my if you've got the space in the room.
Myself.
Yeah.
Finding
something. I've known a lot of people. Yeah, because the gym thing, not to get lost totally in the weeds, but one of the things that when they do studies on people's fitness and what people do, the majority of people don't go to the gym, and that of course includes the majority of people who have memberships. So what else do we have to say about guilt motivation than to say that literally, and this is something I've heard from multiple people, even just in that industry, the business model of operating a gym is that 70+% of the people who pay you every month are never going to come in the building. And if you don't have that margin, then you probably can't afford to keep the gym open, because it'll be too much wear and tear in the equipment and things like that. So we can count on that guilt motivation to get me to sign up, but not go. And so if we can't find something that is meaningful to us,
New Year's resolution.
So you stick it to the man by going to the gym when you pay for a gym membership. If you have a gym membership,
that's right.
Just
take
show
your
up.
gym out of business. Go there and sit on that bench.
That's what happened at Gold's. No, I'm just kidding.
You don't
Anyway,
have to
I don't
lift.
know.
You can just bounce up and down on the bench and add plenty of wear and tear.
I'm not going to work out on it. I'm just going to
Exactly.
shake it around.
Yeah, I've paid to lie on this bench.
And then you're making somebody on the treadmill next to you feel better because they're like, I don't know what the hell that guy's doing, but he's just lost his mind and he's bouncing on that bench.
I love it.
There you go. There's an interesting social media idea. Go to the gym and do it really badly just to make everyone else feel better.
Well, I think you.
Hey, that's a TikTok account, man. You should do this.
I think you would actually have a lot of well-meaning people trying to help you, though. That would come
Yeah, no,
up.
I'm like,
I would be worthless.
No, she's not. I don't get the prettiest girl.
Oh, but then they feel like a bad teacher, so it backfires.
Oh no.
No, but I know a lot of people, because fitness is often a time of focus. I mean, people are going through mental health therapy. They're often also trying to become more healthy in other areas. And one of the things, if we continue within that analogy, people find that if they are not one of the statistical minority who actually benefits from the gym membership, then but they might like bike riding. They might like martial arts and go back and, hey, I loved karate when I was a kid. Let me go back and get into that. Or I've known some people that are like, wait a minute, maybe the health benefit I'm looking for isn't really related to my physical shape, speed, strength. So therefore my, fitness is just moving around, going outside and doing my yard work in my garden and spending more time in that because I love that. And it gives me physical motion. And I'm not motivated by saying I want to run the mile faster because it just depresses me maybe or something like that. So anyway, it's like, trying to find what is
20
that.
minutes than you could, that there would be. But I do think there's a tie between the mental and the physical, The better you physically feel, then the easier it is to keep your mind positive.
Yeah, the mind-body connection is real. Hell, if you've got a healthy body, it's a long way to a healthy mind.
Or
And
you're
I
just,
think it's the only
more
thing.
tired. It's hard to keep good habits when you're tired a lot, and you can be tired when you're not eating right. Even just like, I know that diet's way more important than exercise. Exercise is important, but diet is very important because it's so hard to dig yourself out of a deep hole.
Well, actually, there's a lot of good research being done by people like Dr. Gabriel Lyons talking about how important having muscle is, right? So it's not even so much losing so people who are slightly overweight but with more muscle are actually healthier than people who are like lower weights but like with low fat but don't have any muscle. So building muscle is a very, very important.
How did they define healthy though? Is it a cholesterol rate? Is it
I mean that's a fair
healthier, and it's like, well, that can be a lot of.
Well, no, I'm just saying though. The diet is important. You want to make sure you're at a healthy weight. But building muscle is a very important part of health.
You argue with Dr.
But there's
Gabriel,
vitamins and
Robb?
nutrients that you do need though.
He's on the line now. I'm going to patch him.
They're
through.
both very important.
She's a lady, I'll have you know. Actually, so as much as
a
I
good
love
point.
talking about fitness,
Gabriel's a woman's name?
Gabrielle.
Gabrielle,
chalk it up to me saying it wrong. I mean,
Setting us up to be accidentally sexist. Thanks a lot, Dylan.
That is his nom de plume.
No, but I would say, as much as Maynard and I like talking about like fitness and health too, we're not trainers, but I would recommend a podcast to anyone out there who's interested. And one of our friends is the host of it, Justin Andrews. It's Mind Pump. It is an amazing health and fitness podcast where they address anything from someone who's never done anything to all the way up to advanced guys. The guys who host it have tons of experience in fitness and coaching. Always worthwhile to listen to those guys. And like I said, us at Reels, we're pretty good friends with Justin Andrews there, one of the hosts. So shout out to him. Great show. I can't recommend it enough for anyone who wants to dip their toe in fitness.
There's a kind of a bit of research they've discovered about that mind-body connection. I had a doctor who told me this, is that the mind actually is contained within the body. That's a funny thing that they found out.
I've heard that.
But
I think mine is like right here.
yeah, that's
I've already carried mine around on a plate.
For some guys, it's lower.
like those Doctor Who, like the ood on Doctor Who. So
Those are ours.
no, but actually, no. If you think about it, though, it is interesting. Though we don't actually give enough credit to the fact that our brain is an organ, like it's contained within our body, right? And so sometimes I think when we have emotionally hard times, we feel tired, but we don't necessarily recognize it the same way as if we went out and did something like you run a marathon. The next day you don't go like, I wonder why my legs are sore. This is weird. It must be because I'm a bad, weak, stupid person. That must be why my legs are sore. But yet when we have like an overwhelming emotional, or we really struggle, put it in addiction terms, like maybe I really struggle to avoid relapse, or I do relapse, I'm depressed about it on this, and then maybe that next week I just feel sore and tired. I go, oh, what's wrong with me? I'm just I have this big lump, instead of being like, no, I ran that was a marathon of sorts, right? Psychologically speaking, and looking at that.
Yeah,
man,
I do 700-pound mental deadlift.
Yeah, I do love that point, because it's. So many people think you're just like a mind just floating in a body, but like there's such a deep connection, and like like your gut health goes into it too. I mean, there's so much that goes into it. It's
almost like everything's connected to it.
Yeah, I know. But Dwight makes a good point, though. A lot of people just don't think of it that way.
We don't think of it that way. Yeah. Particularly because
the more work and energy you put into it, the easier it gets.
Which is just wild, especially like being overweight. Like, and I know when people tell me, like, obviously I know working out is good. I enjoy working out. I haven't been to the gym since the pandemic. That kind of like killed everything, which sucks. But also, like, I had found the perfect trainer, and then he moved away, and that made me incredibly sad. No. Someone was teaching, like most of the time, sometimes they're like, yeah, do 100 jumping jacks. And I'm like, I broke my ankle. And they're like, yeah, do 100 jumping jacks. And it's like, okay. Forget you. Now I forgot where I was going with that. But still, like, it, there's all these things that go into it, and it's just weird how in order to get more energy, you somehow have to expend energy, and then you keep doing it every day, and you notice that you grow that tolerance, and you get more energy. It's so wild, and it's like, well, I'm so tired, and I'm too tired to go for a walk, and it's like, yeah, but if you go for a walk, you're going to get more energy. It feels so ass backwards, but you do.
Yeah, when I started my daily walks, I could do like half of a cycle, and that's what I did for a couple of weeks, and then it became and I just steadily grew it over time to doing more and more, and then it all gets easier. It compounds. It's those mini habits that compound, but it has to start somewhere. If you're going to build a snowman, you got to start with a snowball. That's the only way that it's gonna end up building up. So you've got
walking all day. Where does it end?
I didn't wake up eating habanero sauce on like 2 meals in my day, and and it just be normal.
Language.
But I'm just saying, like, it's not like one day I'm just like, yeah, I'm obsessed with ghost pepper. Like, it was these little tiny steps of eventually my tolerance went up, and now I'm just, people are like, hey, how hot is this? And I'm like, no, don't ask me. I don't know. I don't know how hot it is for you. I'm so sorry. And
mortals like you, I don't know.
Unfortunately, but at the same time, I'm like, my tolerance is different, and I don't want to hurt you. I've hurt people on accident before, and I just don't want to hurt you.
I think that's such a good point too, about like how you have to expend a little energy, but then you get so much energy back. And if you give yourself permission to say, like, if you're going down to work out, like, well, I don't feel like working out, I'll just do one set, and if I still don't feel like working out, I'm done. Or I'll just go out, I'll do one lap around the track, whether you're running or walking, and if I'm still not feeling it, then I'm done. And every time I've personally felt like that, and I've again had the discipline to go do it, I would say 90% of the time I end up doing the full workout, or I end up doing the full laps that I had planned. Every once in a while, though, like,
first step's the hardest.
Yeah, every once in a while, though, you do hit that one set, and you're like, you know what? No, I was right. I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
And that's the key. I think
it's not good. Yeah.
That's a key to that technique, I think, is you give yourself permission. You accept that I don't have to do this today. It can't be a fake. It's not like, oh, I'll fake out and I'll still feel like a failure if I only do one. It has to be like real legitimate permission you give yourself.
And it's when I did start that, Dwight, I was using it as more of a trick. Like I am just tricking myself into doing it. But then as you get more experience and like Maynard was saying, you build up that compound interest, you realize if you miss a little bit or you're a little off from the exact plan, it's not that big a deal because it happens less and less frequently the more you're sticking with it. So even if you're doing 3 inconsistent workouts, like that's still really good, and then you zoom out for the whole year, you only did what, like maybe 10 inconsistent workouts over a whole year. That's not bad at all,
And so, and I have been making sure to mention this periodically throughout, because one of my main messages today is that engagement does not equal success. Like engagement that pulls us away from compulsive stuff and addictive stuff. Engagement means I'm watching and accepting and dealing with what's real instead of escaping completely from it. If I take breaks, I take breaks. But in avoidance on the unhealthy end, at least addiction. So I can look and say, actually, you know what? I didn't even do my goal of just 1, or I didn't for 3 months, or I didn't whatever, and whatever the goal is, or I reset to green Tabasco. I was trying to pick a low spice level there for Izzy. How did I do?
Very good on eggs.
What'd you say? Yeah. Oh, I love green Tabasco sauce actually, but it's not the highest, right? On the Schofield level. No, anyway. But yeah, Scoville, is that what it is?
Scoville, yeah.
Scoville. My bad. Well, it was Schofield before Ellis Island. But anyway, so but can we look at can we look at something without it like overwhelming and taking us down, right? You know what I mean? So yeah. I wanted to ask Izzy, I did want to ask you something about that. Did you find building up on spiciness stuff, was that a goal that was like, I really want to get into spicy stuff and like you like it? Or was it just, I like hot sauce, I'm gonna try this one, and then you kind of went from there? I'm just curious.
I enjoyed the pain.
Yeah.
It was a bit distracting from, unfortunately, the time when I was getting into hot sauce is I should have known, whatever, but there was a lot of emotional pain happening, so hurting myself with hot sauce was probably the best outlet I could probably find, I guess. I don't know. But it was nice to cry, and especially like at work or wherever, and it's just like, are you okay? And it's like, it's some really, really spicy stuff. It's fine. Like, and using that as an excuse to get out these feelings that I was hiding from, probably. But now I just like to eat hot stuff, and now none of that really makes me cry anymore, which makes me sad because I still like chasing that high. I still want to cry. I don't hide from crying as much as I used to, but I still want it.
You shouldn't succeed too much, because then all of a sudden there's no more dreams to chase.
I have to lower the tolerance again.
Alexander wept, for there was no more hot sauce.
That's the one. I was trying to think of it. Rob got there first.
So they come up with a new pepper.
I did a hot sauce thing though, but it was a conscious journey. It was around the time the pandemic started. I'm like, I'm just gonna start sneaking in these more ghost pepper sauces, because I was always kind of a Tabasco kid, always the hottest salsa. But now the sauce stuff is so insane.
Oh
right?
God, it's so
I'm
insane.
just like, it's such a high mountain, but it would be interesting to see how much higher I could climb. But once you can start getting into extract stuff, I'm uninterested. So
wait until all of us get to go on Hot Ones as guests.
Oh no.
We're gonna make our own hot ones.
I don't want to
look
like
I would do fine on hot ones, because I've had all those hot one sauces. Yeah.
I hate the bomb though.
The bomb's
I was gonna say
the bomb is terrible because it's made
like.
with the bomb's the one made with extract, so it is bad.
It's gross.
But
it's just gross.
Their Apollo sauce that they claimed, that was the one they did as the last drop, which is actually just super tasty. I really liked that stuff a lot.
Yeah, see, I'm a flavor over hot. Yeah, exactly. If it's got flavor, that says a lot. So if you get both, hey.
The
but
Apollo had like
Izzy,
an apple cider vinegar style. It was good.
Oh, that actually sounds really good.
Great on pork.
I was gonna say we used to have the gold fever sauce, right? Yeah. Okay.
Let me ask. So Izzy, your answer was way, way cooler and better than I expected. Because I was just going to make the point that if you're doing something you enjoy, then it helps, right? To then it becomes something, and that's true. But to your point, you were actually engaging in this, it was also a way to deal with some emotional pain that you're going through. Now,
Yeah.
to me,
It's more
that
socially
sounds-
acceptable to eat really spicy food than it is to like cut yourself, especially when you're not in a state where you're suicidal. It's just you liked the way that felt.
But is it still
and
self-destructive?
it's not well, that's the point is it self-destructive? Is it any more self-destructive than if you're just doing it for fun? Because you just mentioned, you know what I mean? If it's like, oh, I like hot sauce, I'm going to try some more.
Yeah.
And you're still doing it. And it's not the kind of thing that you'd be like medically, oh, no, well, I don't know which hot sauce you get. But anyway, is it the kind of thing to where you're like, medically, this is bad for me in a way that is self-harm? Right.
Yeah.
Is it, or is it just kind of that friction that Dylan's talking about of like, so to me, it sounds potentially healthy. How do you feel about it looking back at it?
Looking back at it, I mean, I was chasing it for a long time there, but I think eventually it got to a point where I myself in my personal life started making better decisions. So the hot sauce was just kind of recreational. It wound up becoming a recreational fun type of thing. But it wasn't until much later I'm looking back and I'm like, why was I partaking in things that were kind of like hurting myself essentially?
Some people though,
it's hurting yourself that you can put down, right? Because there are negative habits that are addicting. I mean, anything can be addicting a bit when you do it all the time, but that's like a routine or a rut. And then there's things that actually alter your body's chemistry and you can't go without. And so I think if you're going between hot sauce or heroin, I think we all say that hot sauce is better. When the time comes to put it down, it will be easier and you'll generally be the same person. Might affect your gut biome a little bit, but probably for the positive for the most part.
What about green Tabasco heroin? Excellent. No, that's actually I think that's an excellent point you went out, Rob. In fact, even though this can become everything can get out of whack, I guess, but there are people who use coping mechanisms to stay away from self-harm in the form of damaging one's body on purpose or whatever. Some people actually will use things that are either uncomfortable or even a little painful, but are not long-term damaging to the body. Yeah. So like, for example, some people will hold an ice cube until they can't hold it anymore than drop it. Now, if you do that in certain ways, it can be damaging to the body. But if you just are holding an ice cube, don't use dry ice. Don't put salt on it. There's things. But if you but to me, that sounds like that could very well, and it's your subjective judgment, of course, of how you feel about it as a coping skill. But it's funny that it has stayed around and is something that adds to your life instead of detracts from it. I think it sounds like that's interesting to me.
Yeah, I just like the flavor now. But do I still every once in a while like if something's so hot that it'll make me cry? I'm like, yeah, that's the good stuff right there. And they're like, are you sure you're crying? You're like, and your face is red and you're sweating, and it's like
tears of joy is what they are.
It's so
like,
good.
Yeah, I'd be sore if I ran a marathon. Once again,
I'm so euphoric right now. Like it's so great.
I think that. We got another comment from.
It was me.
The snowman.
But Dwight, now I think you're gonna have to promote some sort of therapeutic hot sauce. I like this. I'm gonna have to. It's like something broken brain hot
demographic
sauce.
That would
the hot ones of therapy.
How many men get into eating hot sauce just so they have a reason to cry?
I do think.
You know what? This is it. I've never thought about that.
Well, a lot of men feel not safe to cry, which is unfortunate because it's a normal emotion. But a lot of men are raised in that environment where they're like pussies or something, which is just stupid.
I don't think I've seen men, like really anyone actually cry from hot sauce. I've seen. I've never seen someone
like a natural reaction
crying. I mean, your eyes might.
The natural not really because I'm
that close to your eyes.
Or sometimes laughter, and when we use humor as a diffusing mechanism or things, you ever laugh so hard that tears come out, or just you have strong emotional reactions. It's a way to access that maybe too. What's that, Rob? You hate what?
People who use humor to cope with their problems.
Yeah, right?
Could never be me.
And well, I will say too, while we're just as we touched on it, I don't know if you were watching, Dylan. Speaking of men's mental health, I plugged your I mentioned, I didn't actually tell anyone where to find it, but that group that you introduced me to, I can't remember if you created it or not. That men's,
no,
it's one of the most / only. There's only a small handful of men's male focused groups that are healthy out there.
Yeah. So the group that Dwight's talking about, it's a Facebook group. I'm not a moderator on it. It was started by a friend, and he was actually my fitness coach for a while, Jay Ashman. It's called Men in Unity on Facebook, and it's actually a very positive. I hate saying safe space because that's kind of lame because we're all pretty jack dudes in there, but it is a safe space, so if you're a dude,
so you wouldn't want to be safe, right?
Yeah, exactly. These are the see, totally toxic free, but we're not a safe space, brother.
Yeah, I know. No, but
I want to backpedal from my earlier. No, I'm just.
No. It is so it's a Facebook community. Like if you want to get in, I can get you in. Of course, the only requirement is that you're a dude, and. Yeah, it's a great place. Yeah, sorry, Izzy. It's a great place. People in there, like they vent about their problems. Like some people are going through some really heavy stuff. Some people aren't. Sometimes people just like sharing their wins. And it was So I haven't been as active on Facebook lately because again, my no talent for moderation. I just scroll, engage, and things like I'm very vicious in comment sections and stuff. I gotta not be in that world sometimes, so
yeah. One of the things for me is, speaking of comments though, that's actually one of the ways when you introduced me to it, and I was like, okay, I'll try it, mostly because you recommended it. As I was telling everybody on here earlier, I have sought out guests who are involved with men's mental health groups, and I've learned I have to screen them pretty well because eventually, it'll be like, oh, here's all the things about the, men's issues and this and that and the modern man. And then all of a sudden they'll start just like bad mouthing women. And I'm like, we weren't even talking about women. I didn't ask that. So anyway, so when I did though, what I do is I was watching those comments and sure enough, when the first thing comes along where someone's like, I'm having this, and it was like a relationship issue point, I was like, okay, let me read those comments, and they were all very healthy, and it was obvious that anything that was going to be unhealthy or toxic was not going to be tolerated. And I was like, oh, that's good, because that takes work to do that. People be, once again, going back to the idea of being addicted to cruelty or addicted to lashing out when we are angry or confused, and so, but trying to do the healthy thing instead. So that's really a cool thing that exists.
Yeah, and even if you do have disagreements about approaches to things, like I've had a few debates on there about various issues and various ways of approaching. Yeah, I know. You would never guess, right? Like I can't help myself, but they're all very But the thing is, though, they're all very respectful, and we're all coming from a place of we all want to make sure like we're moving in the right direction and everything. It's like no one's just saying like, oh, that's stupid and you're a wuss. Like you don't get stuff like that.
Ramsey is a hack.
Yeah. How dare you? I mean, he is a hack, but that's one of the reasons I like him so much. But
I love that.
But when you do hit that toxic stuff, it's about gently correcting rather
than
push people away by just disagreeing. Like, we don't do that here. They won't. Then they shut down. They go somewhere else, and they take those toxic ideas somewhere else where they're welcome.
Yeah.
Right. Is there a teaching or mentor capacity to that? Right.
I try to teach Maynard every day. He keeps getting more and more toxic. I'm hanging it up.
It's because you keep feeding me hot sauce.
I think that might be a long-term bit that he's doing to you. I'm not sure.
Me?
I keep telling him
he's only toxic around you.
I don't know where the bits begin and end anymore.
I think we literally say that like 2 days ago. We were talking. It's just like it's all one bit at this point.
The desert of the real beneath. But it's I've had similar things like that in friendships where there's like a political divide, and there's got to be a gentle way sometimes to correct. Otherwise, you're not changing hearts and minds, right? You're just isolating. You're just creating more tribalism. So it's got to be like a welcoming, like, hey, I don't think it's that way, man. Like for this, but not villainizing that person.
Yeah.
Because very few people deep down are all that bad. They all think they're doing what's best for themselves and others, usually.
No, I think Ben is a super villain, though. I'm looking at he's got the cat in the lap and everything. I don't know.
I don't know about a super villain.
Hey,
So how about
super to me?
Villain is good enough for me.
Wow, not even being classified as a high enough villain. Wow, you were a pretty good.
I'm right beneath.
you were a pretty good villain in that we did that RPG game for the podcast.
So mad.
Where you really got everyone mad.
I
should
wasn't the
say
villain. No, I was the hero. I was the vampire hunter. You guys were the villains.
Actually,
it's
he's
all
right.
perspective. Yeah, it's true. You guys are trying to save the vampire. Either way.
What are all these monsters doing here in this cave? They live here. Oh,
this is their space. Oh, speaking of monsters and fear, this is my. I see. I'm good at segues. I wanted to touch on in the last. We're within our. We got about 20 minutes left in the thing today. So yeah, we're there. Oh. We're at 78% now. So I wanted to ask though, one little caveat. We've talked a lot about how to evaluate ourselves and not judging ourselves too much and things. So with the topic of engagement and avoidance of life, what about times where the engagement isn't just frustrating or inspirational or goal directed? What about when it's really scary? I'm curious if anybody has thoughts about this, about what about when I look at something and it is that thing in the corner that I just don't want to look at. How do have you found ways to get ourselves to engage or face that, to find either courage or support, or when it's, it's not just, I haven't gone to the gym in a while. It's more like, oh, I have this major problem in my life, because addiction oftentimes is covering that up, right? To say I've got a major health problem, mental health problem, relationship issue, some big thing. How do we face it? How do we get ourselves to be brave?
Man,
I think you got to look in the mirror and realize that the addiction's making it worse. Like if you're already broke, getting a lot of substances in your life isn't getting you any less broke. You're making the whole worse. So it's about that. Putting in a little work gives you more energy. Putting in none gives you less. And it can be hard to take the first step, but learning that the second and the third and the fourth are easier. So it's just trying to take that first step. So whatever's going rough in your life, drugs, alcohol, they're not going to improve any of it at all. They're just going to make your problems that you're trying to avoid be even harder.
And then we got to navigate the pitfall of shame that ties into that, though, right? It says if we're heading down that road, we don't want to fall into I'm making it worse because I'm a piece of shit. It's like trying to then, you're talking about taking it hopefully in a more hopeful way of saying, like, I can actually do something else and it'll go better, rather than making it.
You'll probably succeed at making it better without the substances, I would say.
Right, man.
Yeah.
That's such a good question, Dwight, because I'm thinking about the time in my life where I was hiding from a pretty big issue, and I think about some of the friends that I had. So if you're going into an issue with some good social capital, it can definitely help. I think about if you guys know the biblical story of Job, like the God let the devil take everything away from him, and
Job, if you're nasty.
Yeah, right. And he finds himself broke, penniless. He's a broken man, covered in pestilence and boils, because the devil could do all the bad things to him except kill him, was what God said. And when Job's friends found out the condition he was in, they went to him and they grieved with him, but they were silent for 3 days, right? If you've ever heard the phrase rending the cloth, that's what they did. Like they ripped their garments and things. And I had a friend who was like that. I mean, again, not to compare myself to Job, but I had a friend that was like that.
Much more like
during it. Yeah, right.
I didn't think you were till you said that.
No, I know. Kidding. But when I was going through this, I did have a friend that was like that. That was just there. And then once I kind of was over the garment rending phase of this part of my life, I had another friend who loved me enough to basically just ask, like, what are you doing? Like, why is this still an issue in your life? And if you have to have someone in your, for me anyway, like, I don't know if I could have done it just internally. I think I did need that kick in the pants. I think I needed this guy to be in my life, to love me enough to say, why are you still doing this? Like, why is this still a thing? And it forced me to really think about it and to really address it. And I was like, yeah. And because when you have someone else from the outside look at it, it looks so easy to them. Like, how many times have you solved everyone else's problems, right?
Oh, yeah.
When you
Almost
I was all the time, right? And then
We're
so
all our
when
own hitch.
exactly, and then
My problems are the hard ones.
Yeah, exactly.
So for my problems.
when he said to me, and then I took that first step that was so scary, and I like to analyze things, so I had this paralysis by analysis, and I said, no, I'm just gonna do it. Like, write down the list. I'm going to do this, And then the ball started rolling. And you started getting the momentum. And I came out the other side like, oh, that wasn't as scary and as bad as I thought it was going to be. I let it linger.
Especially
for so
not
long,
compared to the status quo that we're in before making a change.
Oh, yeah,
sometimes.
exactly. So I don't know how you get there yourself, and I mean, not to be, I don't want to get too religious with people. I know it makes them uncomfortable, but I had another moment in my life after that where, I'm convinced I felt the Holy Spirit move through me. Then it stopped me from making a terrible decision, and it put me on the path that I'm on now. And I have never been happier. I've never been more successful. I've never felt more blessed, so I know, like, people probably don't want to hear a religious answer to that too, but if
it's something that speaks to you, and that's
you,
the whole point. Is if it
believe
speaks to you, right? Yeah.
And so even then, I would then say, like, I didn't do it internally. I would say the Holy Spirit moved me. But if you don't believe, you would say I somehow did it internally. But man, yeah, just to find a way to do it yourself without social capital, I don't know if I personally would have been able to do it, so not to like end your question on a depressing note, but I do think you need people around you to love you enough to tell you the truth.
I don't think that is necessarily a depressing, because I think you can try to operationalize that in a way of saying, then if I don't have those people, where do I find those people? Even if I start with someone who's a support group, or a therapist, or or reach out to or you ask somebody else, and kind of that idea of hanging out with people that are successful at something I'd like to be more successful at, right? That somebody had mentioned earlier.
That was me. It all comes back around.
What?
Those people pointed out a strength you already had. It was internal to you. You were unaware it was internal to you, but they just made you aware that you could do it. And then
you just see that push. Yeah.
But yeah, as like any solution, like we've been talking about, what works for me might not work for other people. So, if religiosity is something that helps you, that's great. But I could definitely understand why it wouldn't work for many people. And I don't know what people in your field feel about like AA, Dwight, like with the whole God kind of being a mandatory thing. And then you're not strong enough to do this without God, kind of attitude that the program has.
Yeah. Well, I will say, and I've talked a lot about this on lots of different episodes with people, and I've had lots of guests who are very into and have had a lot of success with 12-step communities, and I've met many clients. I also will say, though, to be honest, there's a lot of pros and there's a lot of cons to that culture, and some people do find that the expectation. But I always find that it's how these things are defined, because depending on the group you go to, a lot of times they'll say a higher power, and they really just mean God and traditional religion. Then there's people who are like, they actually mean like what they actually mean. And some people use this terminology, which is something outside yourself that matters to you. Right. And that is a one way to look at it too, whether that thing is a religious, divine kind of a faith experience, or whether that is just, it could be anything. It could be your kid. It could be society. It could be Mike Lunsford was on earlier, and he was talking about the idea of
Mike Lunsford?
Mike Lunsford from the Great.
I'm kidding.
Geek
I don't know
Refuge.
him.
You know him? Oh, okay.
No.
Well, we're all podcasters, so I don't know. There's all the. He might have been on. He should be on your show, actually.
Hey,
I'll
hook us
hook you
up.
guys up. Yeah, I should hook you guys up.
Okay, very good.
Yeah. He does a great pop culture analysis with actually he and his other two co-hosts. You'd get all three of them. So,
But what I worry about is
Anyway.
when you look at for something external, what do you do when that external thing's gone?
that's it. So that's where I think there's this balance. And that's where I was going is trying to find something external beyond myself. There's a great secret is that if there's nobody else out there, then nothing else out there that matters, then it's very hard to motivate ourselves. And then on the other hand, we also though need to have some kind of internal, because external, especially, we're talking about relationship with other people, they're never going to be perfect. And so they're always, if I invest all of my reasons for healthy living into the fact that Ben thinks I'm cool, and then one day, Ben is having a bad day, and he
I thought
doesn't.
you were Dwight Schrute. Oh my god!
You're which Dwight?
gets hit
Oh
by a
no, yeah. So, let's
the
say,
tragedy,
yeah.
Ben gets hit by a bus or something and he's gone.
Right, and Ben, right, yeah, he's abducted by aliens, and then or he has an off day socially, which for Ben his off day is that he doesn't text me back for 10 minutes instead of just 2. So and then I'm like, oh, he's abandoned me. So what do I do?
Well, if I can interrupt
At
real
that
quick,
point, right? That's a good question.
So Maynard's point about what happens when the external thing is gone. Again, though, that's motivation. So hopefully you've had enough time to build up those disciplines, and that's where the internal part comes in. Is
If they give you the first step, like
exactly,
that first step is the hardest, and they can help you with that first step.
Exactly. So if you get that external nudge, that helps build the motivation, and if you have a mind to discipline, again, I said it before, but I'll say it again. People overestimate what they could do in a short time and underestimate what they could do in a long time. If you have the long-term mindset, if that external part goes away, but you still have that discipline, because all the discipline will always be internal. Like that has to be.
Well, see,
like,
but that's the point.
Yeah.
Eventually, it has to become an internal, right? You can't rely on external forever. The people who are, it may work for people that they go to the meeting week and week and week out, but one day the church blows up and there's no meeting. Are they in the bar that day?
God, I hope not.
If they never,
the whole meeting just moved across the street to the bar. It's terrible. No,
if they never learned to continue taking their steps themselves.
One important piece of this is the relationship. But we look at it and say, am I taking an internal approach or an external approach? Or am I taking, as much as possible, a diversified, multi-pronged approach to my health, right? And this is why I like to use the word health instead of the word sobriety oftentimes, because sobriety, I feel like, is a narrowing definition, whereas health is more inclusive, right? Am I living my healthiest when it comes to...
and have some level of intoxication, in moderation.
Yeah, exactly.
Right times, what works for you.
So when you build up those kind of internal resources to say, as I heard someone put it this way, I was in a treatment place and there is she wasn't a therapist. It doesn't really matter. She was a treatment professional, just talking about how she was in her family when she was going through staying away from methamphetamine abuse, right? And that there was time after time where she would find it in the laundry because somebody would just leave something in their pocket, or
I hate when that happens.
Or when you go to the laundromat and you look through everyone else's and there's none, that's even worse.
Yeah, or you go to
wait a minute,
and they put cocaine in your candy, and you're like, come on.
You said it. There's a lot of replacements for candy. No, so but she said that she knew she was at a better point in her life when she found some family member's stuff that got left in her house and she threw it away. Right. She didn't use it and she didn't sit there and think about using it for a long time. She said, I threw it away. And I knew I had turned a corner inside myself, right? And that came from a lot of work and all that. So you have the internal work you do. And I did want to plug one other thing though, about the external and the relationships. This is why it is good to diversify and be around and have as much of a healthy community in your life as possible, so that it's not all on Ben texting me back within 5 minutes. And when he texts me back 12 minutes later, I've already relapsed. Thanks a lot, Ben. And it's his fault. No, just kidding. But to have actually, if Ben's your friend, you're probably good off. But anyway, if you have multiple supports in your life and multiple places where you can go and people that it's like I'll throw out here's a reference probably everyone in here will get, since we're all movie folks. is that movie About a Boy. If you remember the whole premise of it, if anybody's seen that, is there anyone here who hasn't seen About a Boy?
We haven't
Wait
seen
a
it.
minute. I gotta go on a
Wow.
tangent. I think about that movie all the time
Yeah.
because Hugh Grant is rich in that movie because his father wrote a banging novelty Christmas song,
And he lives off the
royalties.
Yeah.
And it just inspired me, man. If I could write the next huge novelty Christmas
Santa the
song and
Snowman.
live off one song, and that's actually what inspired Santa the Snowman. So it actually goes back to About a Boy. Not
Grandma got run over by a reindeer again. That was
yes,
the name of the song, yeah.
exactly. No, it was like Santa's Rocket Sleigh or
Let's
something.
do the Hanukkah song.
Yeah, it was Santa's
Oh,
rocket
that's-
sleigh in the movie.
Yeah, no, I think about that
Right.
movie all the time, but probably not for the wonderful reasons you're going to bring up.
Well, it is, it's a weird little gimmick that they have about that character, but it's a really good way that they use to show that all of his needs are met and more, and it's completely empty, right? Because it's he's not
and
healthy.
because it's his baseline too. He was born into that
Right.
comfort that many other people are still striving for.
Yes.
He takes it for granted.
Yeah.
Well,
So
not
there's
really,
a-
though. He talks about how it destroyed his father because his father spent the rest of his life trying to write a better Christmas song and never got it. So, like, he actually is a little more self-aware than that.
Well, let's focus on this one line.
Okay, yeah.
No, it's actually two lines. It's said twice by Nicholas Holt. Is that his last name? Anyway, is that right? Lex Luthor? Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
Lex Luthor, when he was just a little kid and was in this movie. Anyway, he has they do this great dueling monologues between Hugh Grant's character and his character, right? They have these different monologues going through the movie. So you have these internal monologues of these two people. So he says this it's within the first act of the movie. And then I believe it's I think it's in the very, I think it's the last line actually as well, is where he says this concept of when his mom is suicidal, going down this path of self-destructiveness. It's just him and her. And he says, I realized that in my community or my family, 2 wasn't enough. We needed at least 1 more for backup. And then at the end, where, spoiler alert, people are happier at the end than they were at the beginning in this movie. So there's him and the romantic interest of Hugh Grant's character, and then her kid, and then his mom, and then a friend, and they're all having I think Christmas or dinner together. Hey, it probably was because of Santa's super sleigh. But anyway, so they all are there, and then the final line that you hear in his head, right, is that we all have backup now. Right. And so there's a concept of diversification of who in my life, I can't put one thing or all my needs on one person or all on myself. Right. It's nice to have that, and to be able to find it, as we were talking about in the community building, is a good thing. There we go.
Tie that back to pro wrestling, if I can. I think often of
I bet you can.
Of course you could. I don't doubt that.
I think often of Chris Benoit, who had so many substance problems, and they said that the guy he really leaned on was Eddie Guerrero for so many years. Eddie was his anchor and his rock, and was kind of keeping things together. And then Eddie dies out of nowhere, and Chris's life spirals out of control. He was kind of Chris's only lifeline, and without Eddie, he just, obviously everything got much worse. But if he had had more people that he could have leaned on, he wouldn't have lost his whole support system. In one fell swoop, he lost his support system, and that was obviously bad.
And not to get even more maudlin, but I was actually just reading an article too that the percentage of Americans who report having 0 close friends is up to 12%. The last time they did this research, it was 8%. And it spiked during the pandemic because it used to hover around 4%, and now we're all the way up to 12. So there is kind of a crisis of friendship. I forget the name of the guy who wrote the book in the 90s, Bowling Alone.
Some of that is probably working from home and stuff too.
It could be. It's not necessarily,
Or the way in which we do it.
Yeah,
Right.
I think even if people are going to offices and stuff, I just don't think people are forming communities the way they used to. You just don't
I think
get
that's
out
a
in the
person by
community.
person thing, because back when
Yes, that's why it's only 12%.
Yeah.
But the number is
the
still
point is
up.
it's growing.
Is my point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, but I think my point is face-to-face contact would at least increase your likelihood of creating a friendship.
Oh, maybe.
At
Look,
least
I don't
kill
know
time
what
together.
I don't know what the demographic is of that 12% that's rising. But it's the fact is that's the number, and it's going up. And what the solution could very well just be more getting in people's faces, So
Well, and circling, around to early on, we talked about with the concept of engagement. We're applying this. A lot of our conversation is to ourselves if we are having addiction problems. Now, we had talked earlier too about the other form of engagement, though, that is healthy for everybody, is if I don't identify myself as having addiction problems, I don't maybe feel like I do or whatever. My role then, if I'm feeling in a more stable place, engagement for me, but also to help these problems that you just mentioned, friendlessness, overdose, whatever. If I really am doing it, it's a form of self-care and a form of advocacy, if you will, to reach out to others, engage with others, engage with Zorp. You reach out and you let people know that you're available.
What would you say is the best way to do that? Because like let's say we have a mutual friend who's got substance abuse problems, and you try to reach out and help, but they don't listen. Do you and you worry that continuing to press it will end that relationship?
Yeah, push them away.
Would rather just leave it than listen to you. So
yeah. You know what? And I will say, I kind of feel like you guys are good at this, having a little insight into some of your guys' ways that you deal with things. But to me, one of the biggest things is to provide that support and acceptance. To me, it's like it's a balance. I'm pushing for health and support and saying I believe in you. On the other hand, I'm also trying to give that person a space or a relationship where they don't have to do anything to win my love or to keep my love, even, right? That there's that feeling of like, I love you no matter what. And it doesn't ruin my day if you had a bad day. That type of thing, I think, is that empathy without expectation, while at the same time still saying, I hope for you to have health in your life. I mean, it's difficult, but I think that's I heard an old counselor say this once. He was old at the time. I don't know. Maybe he's dead now. Who knows? He's probably older now than he was then. No, but he had this little formula in his head that he would, it was applied mostly to parenting, but I think you can apply it to any relationship. When there is a give and take of communication where you're afraid of just what you said, which is I don't want to damage the relationship, but I also don't want to not push if they need it a little bit. So he would say, imagine a 1 to 10. And he'd say, imagine that, on a 1 to 10 scale, this is the amount of pushback / anger, resentment that you feel from someone. You tell them something and they say, Rose, that's the worst character in Star Wars, whatever. Back to Maynard's,
it gets Maynard to a
role.
10.
So when you get, when you get to that and you say, okay, if let's say, just say anything that is hovering underneath a 4 or 5 is appropriate. If that's the right kind of pressure, it's fine. They're having a little reaction, 1, 2, and 3, no big deal. We all have that. 5 or lower, basically safe. We're probably not damaging the relationship. If we sort of in our estimation measure that they're having a 5 or higher response, just drop it. This is not the time, right? So here's like when it crosses over to where it's like, oh, I feel like this is a stronger response. It probably is. All I'm doing is pushing them away. Then I can say, oh, you know what? Fuck that. We'll talk about it another time. It's fine. I love you, right? Okay. And that's the approach, is the empathy and just unconditional acceptance. Then the little push, if there's that little bit, it's okay. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like,
no, that makes perfect sense.
I think it's a good guideline.
Going back to why he would have said it for kids, I totally get it. Like when the kid is freaking out having the tantrum, that's not when they're going to learn the lesson. You know what I mean? So like you gotta like kind of contain the tantrum, but that's not when you try to explain, no, you have to eat your broccoli because it's healthy for you. Like that comes after the tantrum, So,
right. And if eating the broccoli, if eating the broccoli is my sole goal, I can sometimes bully a kid into eating broccoli, but I didn't actually win anything. I didn't do anything good for either of us. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So even if they eat the broccoli, then we think, I really did something. It's like, yeah, you did. You harmed the relationship.
Lifetime of healthy habits established.
And if you do hurt the relationship too, it's very important. What's the name of that? Kind of like, she's a pop psychologist lady. She talks about like the repair all the time, right? Like if you do go too far, and it's not just a matter of apologizing, it's actually like working on repairing what ruptured, and that's
Brene Brown, maybe.
No, I can't think of her name. She wrote Good Inside. I think we talked about that once. Why can't I think of her?
Gabrielle.
Gottman?
Yeah, no.
Dr. and Dr. Gottman, the married couple, they both talk about that a lot too.
Yeah, well, because it's a good thing to talk about. Maynard, kill time while I look this up. All right. Thank you, Maynard. Becky Kennedy.
Who is it?
Kennedy, Dr. Becky Kennedy. She wrote a book called Good Inside, which is really good parenting book. Cool. I really like that one.
It taught me everything I know about parenting.
Well, it helped me with a lot. Well, because it did help me with this understanding of like when to engage, how to engage, and if like something did rupture or hurt the relationship, how to repair it. It's like and it's it's a great line too, like talking about when you're dealing with people who are in these situations. And you guys can guess who said this. People are more willing to forgive you for when you're wrong than to forgive you for when you're right. Dumbledore said that.
I was gonna say Dylan.
No, but that's true, because that will push them away. That will hurt them when they know you're right, and like that's what you said. So it's a balancing act. Yeah, that's it. It's a tough situation to be in for sure.
Yeah. Did that? I don't know, Rob. Was that useful at all? What you were asking?
I think your answer was. About trying to gauge
that's the one I was asking about.
Right, yeah. About trying to gauge, hey, are they at a 5 here? If they're too far, then just don't press it.
Well,
but
I didn't want to. Yeah, I didn't want to.
I don't know what would happen if every time you brought it up, they were always at an 8. I don't know.
Well, then, no. I will say though, I think a lot of people have gone through it on themselves, and with loved ones, or with loved ones, will say, yeah, you just keep patience. You just keep because otherwise, that's all you got is the relationship. Yeah, if they're always above a 5, it's just then I still brought it up, and then I back, and then so you just. That's the investment in just trying to support without requiring. I really can't require them to do anything. What's that?
You have to bring it up to get the reaction, I suppose. So I guess that's a fair point. Yeah.
I think it's also still important to know where your limits are. And
yes, you have to stay.
There's people who walked away from my life because I was being a dick and I was in a relationship that was crappy and I didn't listen to anyone that it was crappy. And why should they stay around me? Like when I was being such a terrible person. And I think about those and I'm glad. I look back and I'm like, I'm glad they didn't stay around me at that time, because them leaving also still impacted me to be like, eventually, not immediate, unfortunately, like, is it me? Like, what did I do to mess it up? And I missed that and I can't get it back. And they don't owe it to me to try to get that back, I'm glad they walked away from that situation. And I'm glad the ones who were around or who wound up coming in and helping me understand things later came into my life that way, because there was a time where I didn't have anyone. I did start becoming very isolated in the situation I was, but for good reason.
That's a great point, and a great qualifier, I think, is that having boundaries, having some boundaries around being healthy and safe for yourself as well, because you don't have to stay in a fill in the blank type of relationship with every other human in order to be a person with empathy, right? It's like, I can have empathy, but I don't have to stay here and be part of this and watch this or put up with abuse or anything like that too, even if I believe that it's because you're in an unhealthy place. So that's a good qualifier. I'm really glad you said that. So
yeah, that was a good point.
Well,
what's the old saying about?
We want to thank our guest Dwight Hurst.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on. As I've been taken over by the Reels of Justice every year.
Therapy.
Hey, we've done it, man. Look. Speaking of goal directed, right? This is another year down, and I really appreciate the support and help of everybody here. Ryan already left, but him too, and then all of our other guests and people who've been here year after year. Mike, thanks for joining. He was kind enough to do it. Dr. Coffee came earlier, and Chris Revel, a recurring supporter of this event, but also of my life and friendship as well with him. So really, really good. I thank you so much, guys, for being here. We have done it. Here's all the notes. And guess what? Because of y'all, I didn't have to use most of those. So
I hope
me just doing all that shit would not have been as good.
It's like a list that says solutions.
Speaking of good micro habits, I'm gonna go get another walk in right now.
Look at all these great solutions I had. Well, Wheels of Justice gang showed up.
It was all blank paper, guys. Look behind.
Thank you.
No,
I'll
anyway,
see you next year, Dwight.
Yes, thank you. See you guys soon.
Bye, Maynard.
Bye.
I'll see you guys later. And you guys are the Reels of Justice podcast. I think we said that already. Is there anything else you want to share about yourselves before you go? I know that's not what this is about, but I do appreciate people's time being donated.
Oh, Izzy, go for it. You've got stuff.
Oh, I did my intro like 4 hours ago.
Yeah, no, just Ben and I on Reels of Justice. And then actually, I guess I will plug the Men in Unity group one more time. If you're a dude out there and you need a good space, I'm not on there as much as I probably should be. But, you know, if you connect to Reels of Justice, if you connect to Men in Unity and you see Dylan Schlender in there, you shoot me a message, I will respond, you know, and do what I can. Yeah.
And even though, you know, I know you guys have a movie podcast with a comedic kind of bent to it, but I've actually have found you're inviting people to have a fun, lively argument about the quality of a movie, a mid-movie has been super fun to listen to, and also is pretty good communication stuff, actually, because you require people to come in and not be stupid about it or angry about it, and just be an even-keeled, fun-loving discussion about I hate this, I love this, and whatever, and that. So anyway,
I could do a dual plug for both our shows, Dwight. So you just had a guest that we had on, Alexandra Sedeci, if I'm saying her name right, and she's a great scholar on suicide in media, and so she was on our show talking about Hot Tub Time Machine, and ostensibly you would think Hot Tub Time Machine, what a silly movie.
Yeah.
But we actually had a great conversation about suicide's representation in media. Like, no one's had a conversation this deep about Hot Tub Time Machine anywhere on the internet, I guarantee it. You know, and then
great.
Yeah, and then Dwight, you had them on your amazing show, The Broken Brain, which everyone should be subscribed to, of course, and hopefully everyone here is. Yeah. You know, and then of course Dwight's been on Reels a lot, and you bring your expertise as a counselor, as a therapist, as someone who's invested in mental health into all that. Like, I think about the Family Man episode you did, you know, the Nicolas Cage movie, and you brought up that very interesting point about how, like, the Nicolas Cage that he replaced didn't seem to be in a healthy spot, you know, like he had booze at work and stuff. And it's just stuff that people don't really think about. So we have experts on like that. So if you see some of our cases come up and you're like, well, that's a silly movie, like, keep an eye on who the guest is, because there's a good chance we're getting a lot deeper into the weeds on some of this stuff than you might think.
Yeah, not with me though. If you see me as a guest, I'm just insulting Dylan for fun. That's all.
It's just me and Izzy bullying each other for an hour. It is.
Hey,
funny.
you know what? That's fun.
Funny,
that can be healing too. That can be healing too. And I'll mention, I know you already did Izzy too. Thank you for that. And I'll mention Izzy, I know you did, but the Hersing Around podcast and the That's Bodacious Dude are also excellent listens. If anybody didn't hear the beginning part of this, I want them to make sure to know that.
And tune into Wizard of Oz if you want to hear Dwight.
That's right. The Return to Oz.
The Return to Oz.
Yes.
Oh, I'm doing that. That's
get our opinions on
the
wonderful sequel, the wonderful, underrated, and scary sequel, Return to Oz. Yeah. So, all right. And once again, join me at the Broken Brain. We're getting into September, technically, day after tomorrow, or tomorrow, depending what day today is. Anyway, we're in September, and that September is Batman month, because that's the day of the Batman anniversary of Batman coming out. And every year I try to cover some interesting things through the lens of I'm going to be resuming my annual internship at Arkham Asylum, so I'll be doing a couple of takedowns of the diagnosis of the Rogues Gallery, and trying to find some fun and interesting ways to look at the way that we do assessments in mental health. So
that's awesome.
All right.
Those are fun. I really like those.
Yeah, that's a great idea. It really is.
All right. Well, thanks everybody, and everybody who is out there either has watched now or is watching later or is listening now or later or whenever. We love you and grateful to be there. And hey, love you guys too. Thank you.
You're the man, Dwight. Take care, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Courtemp Arts Podcast Network. To listen to more Courtemp Arts shows, visit courtemparts.com.